Chapter 299. Even if Qiyuan was destroyed, the throne would not be occupied by the remnants of the previous dynasty, and even more so, it would not be your Pei family's turn to be that regent. Aristocratic families that have been around for generations. Aristocratic families without the support of power can only fool ordinary people. There is probably no one who is clearer than you, the patriarch of the Pei family, about how many people are eyeing the Pei family. If you want to act big in front of this prince, you should first weigh your own capabilities. Don't come to me if you have nothing to say. Think carefully before you come. If you don't, there is no need for the Pei family to exist. Hearing Li Hongyuan's voice behind him, clan leader Pei paused for a moment before he sped up. After he left the room, clan leader Pei no longer hid his feelings. His expression was uncertain. Even though Li Hongyuan's attitude was distant and cold, he was confident that he could achieve his goal in the end. Now that Li Hongyuan impatiently pointed it out, the advantage that he thought he had disappeared in an instant. Instead, he was being controlled tightly. Regardless of which dynasty it was, they hated the surviving members of the previous dynasty. Naturally, they would want to eliminate them completely, regardless of whether they were old, weak, women, or children. If the imperial court found out that the Pei family was hiding the descendants of the previous dynasty, they would definitely destroy the Pei family. Moreover, no other family would help them. No one would dare to interfere in the matter of exterminating the Pei family. Don't forget that the protection given by Emperor Taizu had a major prerequisite. In essence, the Pei clan was not favored by the Li royal clan. Let me ask you, it's already a change of dynasty. It's fine if you don't curry favor with me, the new emperor, but you still can't forget the previous dynasty. What is the meaning of this? Because the dynasty was not stable and there were too many killings in the early stages, if they attacked the Pei family at this time, the newly established dynasty would immediately be in chaos. In order to show mercy, they let the Pei family go. The clan leader of the Pei family at that time made such a decision because he knew the situation at that time. However, the clan leader of the Pei family at that time was loyal and righteous. Did he think about the other members of the Pei family? Moreover, how did he suppress the voices of the Pei family at that time? Could it be that all the Pei family members were of the same mind as him? As long as Emperor Taizu of the Qi Yuan promised a high position and generous salary, there would be people who would not hesitate even if they were expelled from the family. Then what exactly happened back then? This was also a mystery to Patriarch Pei. Li Hongyuan was right. Many people were eyeing the Pei family now, especially those in-laws. They put on a good face, but they wanted to peel off a layer of the Pei family's skin. The simplest and most helpless thing was that the Pei family's dowry and betrothal gifts were far more than what they received. From any aspect, they couldn't give too little. If they were too little, it was one thing to be criticized, but the Pei family couldn't afford to lose face. It was still fine if they were from the side branches, but the closer they were to the main family, the more they couldn't save. Not only that, in the past, the Pei family usually only had connections with other clans through marriage. Ordinary nobles rarely had connections with them. Even if these nobles wanted to marry the Pei family's concubine's daughter, they had to give everything they had. It wasn't like now, where any Tom, Dick, or Harry dared to come knocking on their door. Of course, this was only Patriarch Pei's opinion. It wasn't that serious in nature. However, even if it was a Tom, Dick, or Harry, they weren't born with nothing. To put it bluntly, the Pei family, from top to bottom, were born with nothing. They were just ordinary people. No matter how many famous scholars there were, it couldn't change this fact. Just based on this point, they had no right to look down on others. However, it was a pity that clan leader Pei would never realize this. He was more concerned about Li Hongyuan now. How did he know about the descendants of the previous dynasty's imperial family? This could be considered the Pei family's biggest secret. Even in the Pei family, there were very few people who knew about it. They were all trustworthy people. Then, where did they go wrong? This kind of family extermination matter, those who knew about it knew the severity of it. The possibility of it being accidentally found out was very small. In comparison, he was more inclined to believe that someone had leaked the secret, and that someone had done it in a very conscious state. Thinking about this, Patriarch Pei's face became colder. If he knew, however, this wasn't the main point now. The main point was how to deal with his grandson. According to the current situation, only he knew about this matter. If his father knew about it, he would have already made a move on the Pei family. He hid it, which meant that he had a motive. What he wanted was obvious at a glance. Now, he had to make a decision. He could only choose one of the two paths. In reality, after being exposed, there was no other choice. If he chose the descendants of the previous dynasty's imperial family, the Pei family would only have a dead end. His grandson became the only choice for the Pei family to rise again. In the face of life and death, in the face of future interests, Patriarch Pei's mind couldn't be clearer. However, at the same time, the Pei family had lost all initiative. If they had only wanted to help at 30% of their strength, he might have squeezed them into 120%. Patriarch Pei hated this feeling of being completely out of control and at the mercy of others. As for the person who had caused the Pei family to fall into this state, the only thing that comforted Patriarch Pei was that this grandson of his was very resourceful. The stronger he was, the greater the advantage he had in the fight for the throne. In the end, there would be fewer variables. However, although this kind of person would reduce the chances of those assisting him to perform, it would also reduce the danger that they faced. Patriarch Pei was very ambitious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have raised the descendants of the previous dynasty's imperial family. In the end, it would be very difficult to satisfy him. Moreover, he had a fatal weakness. He was also worried that Li Hongyuan would burn the bridge after crossing the river. Patriarch Pei was also very clear about this kind of thing. It would be a joke to have deep feelings for someone he had never met or interacted with. It was said that the kindness of birth was not as good as the kindness of raising. From what he knew, imperial concubine Su had done her best for this adopted son. He didn't need to miss his birth mother. As for these people who suddenly intervened, other than the thin blood relationship, they didn't have any feelings to speak of. It would be a joke if they really succeeded. No matter how he looked at it, the disadvantages outweighed the advantages. So what? Patriarch Pei stood in the cold wind and resolutely turned back. For this kind of thing, the sooner he expressed his opinion, the better. This time, even his attitude was much better. Li Hongyuan didn't reject him, and his sitting posture didn't change much. Your Highness, if there's a chance, how about I let you meet someone? Patriarch Pei smiled warmly. Li Hongyuan also guessed who he wanted to meet. This more or less meant that he was going to hand this person over to him. You raised him like your own son. You married and had children for him to continue the bloodline. Now, you're abandoning him just like that. You really are a qualified patriarch. Patriarch Pei's back was drenched in cold sweat. He didn't expect Li Hongyuan to know the other party's identity. One had to know that there were even fewer people who knew this, and they were all surnamed Pei. Could it be that he didn't mention it before because he wanted to test him again? Why was it that the more he interacted with his grandson, the more he felt that this grandson was unfathomable? Patriarch Pei rejoiced that he made a decisive choice. Patriarch Pei lowered his head and pursed his lips. Your Highness also said that this old man is a qualified patriarch. Yes, an unqualified father. This prince's wife hates this kind of person the most. Patriarch Pei's expression was exceptionally good. He wasn't sure if Li Hongyuan was speaking the truth, or if he was insinuating something with his words. As a woman, Your Highness is inevitably soft-hearted. However, as the patriarch of a clan, you bear the expectations of all the clan members. Usually, it's best if everything is perfect, but when there's a conflict, you have to make a choice. Li Hongyuan nodded as if he agreed with Patriarch Pei's words. It's obvious what the choice is between the entire clan and an outsider who's like a puppet. It's just as Your Highness said. In essence, it's a matter of choosing the greater of two benefits. For the first time, Patriarch Pei felt that talking to someone was so tiring. In the end, he really couldn't figure out Li Hongyuan's true intentions. Your Highness's words seem inappropriate. This old man thinks that it's more appropriate to choose the lesser of two evils. This prince was talking about the time when Patriarch Pei wasn't the patriarch. Patriarch Pei didn't know how many times he had changed his expression tonight. He felt that he probably didn't look at the almanac when he came to see his grandson today. Perhaps it was written that everything was inappropriate. He had been the patriarch for nearly 20 years. Before that, the only thing his grandson had mentioned was about his mother. The problem was, that was 28 years ago. There weren't many people who knew the details. Could it be that his source of information was actually the same as the news about the descendants of the previous dynasty's imperial family? It was very likely. Who was this person? Who was it? However, since he knew about what happened 28 years ago, the scope of his search was much smaller. Patriarch Pei smiled bitterly. But I don't know what your highness has heard. Who's the one who started this rumor? What happened 28 years ago wasn't like what happened with the descendants of the previous dynasty. There was no conclusive evidence. If he insisted, who could say anything? The one on the throne said it. Does Patriarch Pei want to confront him face to face? Li Hongyuan said casually. Patriarch Pei even felt that it was amusing. It was as if he knew what Patriarch Pei was up to and was just teasing Patriarch Pei, but Patriarch Pei couldn't do anything about it. Patriarch Pei showed endless grief and indignation, but he seemed to be holding back because of the other party's identity. His Majesty's words are golden. Naturally, whatever he says is the truth. Li Hongyuan laughed lightly. His voice was clearly very pleasant to the ears, but to Patriarch Pei, it was filled with mockery. It was as if he was saying, "Who are you trying to show off to when everyone already knows this?" In Li Hongyuan's eyes, Patriarch Pei was just a clown. If he said it out loud, he could still argue for it. At least he could maintain it on the surface. This kind of feeling was like a fishbone stuck in one's throat. There was no room for argument. If he said it out loud, he would only receive a deeper level of humiliation. For example, "So you're this kind of person. You're really self-aware." His face was swept away and his dignity was completely gone. It wasn't humiliation, it was humiliation. This was probably the most realistic portrayal of Patriarch Pei right now. How did he end up in this situation? In the end, Li Hongyuan knew a lot about him, but he knew nothing about the real Li Hongyuan. It's already late at night. Laofu will not disturb Wang Ye's rest and will take his leave first. Patriarch Pei probably never expected that he would one day have to flee in defeat. Patriarch Pei shouldn't have turned back. Was it that his awareness wasn't deep enough? Or that he didn't want to disturb the noble Jin Qinhuang's rest? Patriarch Pei didn't want to think so much anymore. He hurriedly left. Being led by the nose, Patriarch Pei was naturally very unreconciled. However, he was a person who always put profit first. Would he bear a grudge against Li Hongyuan because of this and consider finding another way out? No, he wouldn't. Not to mention the energy needed to make a new plan, the most secretive things could be known by this grandson. If he made a move, could he hide it from this grandson's eyes? This kind of thing couldn't be gambled because he couldn't afford to lose. That night, Patriarch Pei was destined to have a sleepless night. Li Hongyuan didn't return to his room until Jing Wan came to find him. Li Hongyuan hurriedly got up and pulled her into his arms. He slightly reprimanded her, "Although it's already summer, we live near the water. The night is colder than other places, and the humidity is heavy. What if the evil energy enters your body? You're already an adult, why don't you know how to take care of your own body?" Jingwan hugged his waist and shook it coquettishly. "I can't sleep without you." He knew that she always slept regularly, and his heart couldn't help but soften when she was still awake. "You could have sent someone to call me. You didn't have to come personally." Jingwan looked up at him and blinked. "I thought you were still angry." It was rare to see her like this. Li Hongyuan couldn't help but laugh. "If I'm really angry, I won't bother with you." Jingwan's lips moved, and then she stammered, "I'm a little different from usual." Li Hongyuan instantly understood what she meant. "Wan, if you miss me, you can tell me." Out of 10 times, He would use this as a pretext to make a fuss. That was called fun. When he was really angry, he wouldn't torture her. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to control himself and hurt her. However, his little sweetheart would misunderstand. In her eyes, was he someone who had to solve problems in bed? She was obviously an extremely intelligent woman, but why was she so pure in certain areas? He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he couldn't do anything to her. Jingwan also realized that she had probably made a stupid mistake. Her face was completely red, and she wished she could find a hole to hide in. It was so embarrassing. Jingwan wanted to push him away, but how could she? It was rare for his wife to make a stupid mistake, and she invited him, sincerely. Now that he was calm enough, how could Li Hongyuan let go of the delicious food that was right in front of his mouth? He lifted Jingwan up. Caught off guard, Jingwan hurriedly hooked her arms around his neck, and angrily punched his shoulders twice. To Li Hongyuan, this was no different from scratching an itch. After the two of them fell asleep, they didn't know how much time had passed. The next morning, Li Hongyuan woke up, but Jingwan was still sleeping soundly. The room wasn't big, and he was a martial artist, so his hearing was excellent. He could clearly hear what was going on outside. It seemed that many people had arrived. They were buzzing around like flies. It was so annoying. Servants. Jingwan's wet nurse hurried in. Your Highness, are you going to get up? Tell those people outside to scram as far away as possible. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653569. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After making a report, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Beacon.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 300. Tell those people outside to scram as far away as possible. No one was surprised by Li Hongyuan's order. Jingwan's wet nurse responded softly and went out to pass on the message. Not long after, the sound disappeared, and even the other noises disappeared without a trace. This clearance was quite thorough. Li Hongyuan closed his eyes. No one knew if he was taking a nap or preparing to go back to sleep. Jingwan woke up naturally, not much later than usual. She didn't have the habit of lazing in bed, so she got up, washed up, and moved her arms and legs appropriately. When she turned around, a certain someone was still supporting his head with one hand, with a silk blanket draped around his waist, and looking at Jingwan with half-opened eyes. That posture was quite seductive. Speaking of which, there were so many things, but most of the things in their room were not taken away, especially the things on the bed. The bedroom was a place that those officials didn't dare to set foot in. It didn't matter how luxurious and extravagant it was. If they didn't even have this kind of treatment, Li Hongyuan would probably not hesitate to slaughter them. It would be abnormal if she didn't shorten her lifespan by a few years after facing such a man for a long time. Jingwan pinched her nose. If she wasn't obsessed with looks, she would be subconsciously obsessed with them. If she wasn't a pervert, she would feel sorry for herself if she didn't pounce on such a husband. In any case, Jingwan also felt that she was becoming more and more shameless. Thus, she pounced on Li Hongyuan without hesitation, leaving 2 teeth marks on his chest, and kissed him to her heart's content. Then, she looked up at him with a smile like a flower, and licked her lips with her tongue, as if she hadn't had enough. Li Hongyuan didn't move, nor did he respond. He just let Jingwan do what she wanted. When he saw Jingwan's appearance, he revealed a faint smile. He reached out and gently held the back of Jingwan's head, his fingertips rubbing the edge of her hair. Wan, you're so enthusiastic this morning. Did your husband not serve you well last night? Do you want to make up for it now? Jingwan's ears turned red, but she didn't back down. She drew circles on his shoulder with her finger. That's very thoughtful. But can't you let me savor it? Of course, how can it not be? I also want to savor it. It was not Li Hongyuan's style to let his wife take advantage of him. After a while, Li Hongyuan slowly got up and let Jingwan help him change his clothes clumsily. If he met an impatient person, he would probably be driven crazy by Jingwan. Fortunately, Li Hongyuan was very patient and had no intention of helping. Even so, the final result was not satisfactory. Jingwan felt a little ashamed that she was almost raised into a 9th grade handicap. She was probably the most unqualified wife. However, when she thought that her husband didn't care at all, she nimbly tidied up herself. The small flaws left by Jingwan were fixed. Even if he was dressed in rough clothes, he still looked dignified and handsome. Jingwan felt justified again. She couldn't help it. She had a good life. Li Hongyuan didn't know Jingwan's thoughts. If he knew, he would probably be more distressed. She didn't know how bad her life was. No matter how good her life was now, it was not enough to make up for it to a certain extent. However, Li Hongyuan was actually very glad that she didn't know and didn't remember. Probably no one wanted to go through that kind of life. After a crazy time, Jingwan also needed to freshen up. Then, the two of them had a simple meal. When everything was done, Jingwan followed Li Hongyuan out of the room. Caught off guard, Jingwan was really shocked. The structure of the water stronghold was not the same as ordinary buildings. There were no small courtyards or things like that. However, there was a platform in front of every house. There were all kinds of wooden bridges connecting them, and there were also wooden ladders going up and down. The only spacious platform was the same as the threshing ground in the countryside. It was mostly used to dry crops and things like that. Places higher than that were basically visible at a glance. Now, there was a group of people drying there, and all of them were wearing official robes. Even if they were of the lowest rank, it was enough to make anyone in the water stronghold revere them. At this time, most people probably clearly understood that Li Hongyuan was not ordinary. It had to be known that when they first saw him, they could still curiously look at him from afar. Now, almost every house was closed. In reality, this kind of mentality was very easy to understand. First, most people didn't know Li Hongyuan's identity. Second, information was blocked. Many people didn't know what a prince meant. Often, it wasn't as authoritative as the county magistrate that they could see or hear from up close. Now, any one of these people could make a person like the county magistrate be respectful. Now, they were all standing there like grandchildren, with their heads down and hands down, not saying a word. How could they not be afraid of such a person? When did these officials arrive? Jingwan asked the servant girl in a quiet voice. Wang Fei, there were officials arriving one after another in the middle of the night. The latest was more than 2 hours ago. They've been there since they arrived? In the middle of the night, they've been standing there in the cold wind? It must have been hard on these officials. Yes, the people of the water stronghold didn't dare to approach the officials. The officials also didn't say that they wanted to borrow a place to rest. Later, the people of the water stronghold sent them some hot soup. Then, 2 hours ago, the officials came here and were driven away by Wang Ye. Qing Zhu explained clearly. Jingwan realized that when they came over, she reckoned that she was sleeping soundly. Very good. Jin Qin Wang once again overbearingly helped her take the blame. Jingwan didn't follow them. It wasn't very appropriate and it wasn't necessary. After Li Hongyuan left, Jingwan had people move a small stool and sat on the edge of the small platform outside. Looking down, she could see most of the water stronghold and the sparkling water surface. This place had good mountains and water. It was good to live in for a short period of time, but the humidity was too heavy. It probably wouldn't be good to live in for a long time. However, Jingwan saw that the people of the water stronghold were very healthy. Perhaps there was a unique method to get rid of the humidity. Qing Zhu, son. How is Darren's situation? Son Darren is already fine. He woke up last night. The people of the water stronghold are very good at dispelling snake venom. The snake venom has basically been completely removed. Rest more, and after a few days, he will be fine. It's just that, at first, it was not discovered. Son Darren's right ankle was also injured. It is said that when it was discovered, it was already swollen like a steamed bun. That injury will probably require a longer period of recuperation. Qing Zhu explained in detail. Jingwan was silent for a moment. It's good that he's fine. Let the wet nurse go see him. Just say that the past is over, and that he should take care of himself. Jingwan thought that her attitude was very straightforward and decisive. She didn't leave the impression that she was clingy. Sun Yilan's deep affection for her made her a little puzzled. Although, Li Hongyuan's deep affection for her also made her puzzled. Well, in her view of love, there was no such thing as love at first sight, but it didn't mean that others didn't. Moreover, Sun Yilan's feelings for her couldn't be considered as love at first sight. In the end, there was more or less a factor in it. Because of the restrictions on women, they didn't go out of the house and had little contact with other men. Men naturally had little opportunities to come into contact with other women. This woman was easily moved by a man who existed most of the time, and relatively speaking, this man should be the same. Common interests were the cornerstone of a relationship. When Sun Yilan first fell in love with her, was there not a factor of flowers and trees in it? No one believed it. Yes. Qing Zhu answered and turned to leave. When the wet nurse went to say it, of course, it wouldn't be as simple as just passing on Jingwan's words. Some things were better explained to him clearly. Perhaps it was a bit cruel for Sun Yilan, but as the saying goes, it's better to have a short pain than a long pain. Only when he completely let it go would it be the best result for everyone. As Jingwan expected, her wet nurse went to see Sun Yilan and also sent some food. Because he hadn't eaten well for several days, the food sent was some light and liquid food. The wet nurse attentively served him the food. Then, according to his intention, she helped him up to sit by the window and opened the window to let in some fresh air. However, from his position, he could see the big platform, but he couldn't see Jingwan's location. Although he couldn't hear the specific situation, but from the official's stiff posture, he could roughly guess what was going on. For the officials in the capital, the higher the rank, the more times they would experience Jin Qinhuang's fierceness. These people were no exception. Sun Yilan took 2 glances and then withdrew his line of sight. Then, he asked about the matter this time. The general content had already been strung together. As for the details, he only said that the situation at that time was too frightening. He was scared witless and just ran for his life. How could he pay attention to those things? For the women of the inner residence, this was the best excuse. Then, at the right time, they would show their lingering fear. Basically, there would be no one who wouldn't believe it and wouldn't pursue it. There would be a bit of pity in their hearts and they didn't want to evoke the fear in the other's heart. Sun Yilan's purpose, the wet nurse naturally knew. She also followed his intention and talked about Jingwan. Then, she vaguely expressed that Wang Yi was a vinegar jar. Towards Wang Fei's previous 2 fiancés, he was very wary and possessive. Even if it was the brothers and elders of her maternal family, or even anyone else, as long as they paid more attention, Wang Fei might be tormented later on. In order to dispel Sun Yilan's thoughts, the wet nurse said these words in a more serious manner. Even if the meaning wasn't stated clearly, it couldn't be more obvious. Sun Gongzi, if you sincerely want the good of our family's Wang Fei, it's best that you don't appear again, and don't pay any attention. However, the wet nurse blindly spoke and didn't notice Sun Yilan's increasingly dark and unclear expression. The wet nurse's purpose may have been achieved, but at the same time, it also caused some misunderstandings in Sun Yilan. Although he knew that Li Hongyuan wasn't as unbearable as he appeared to be, but his temperament was malicious, ruthless, and temperamental. Who could guarantee that these weren't true? Moreover, there were indeed women who died in his hands. Torment. Sun Yilan unreservedly thought of this. When he looked at Li Hongyuan again, Sun Yilan's eyes carried an endless chill. That was clearly the woman he admired, the person he wanted to hold in the palm of his hand like a pearl or a treasure. He couldn't get her, but Li Hongyuan easily got her. After getting her, he didn't cherish her. His heart was narrow, and he wantonly trampled on women. What kind of man was he? He had once thought that a woman like Miss Luo, even Jin Qinhuang would cherish her well. Sure enough, he was too naive. For a man like him who was scheming and shrewd, his heart probably only wanted the power of the country. What did a woman count for? However, he was powerless to do anything now. If there was any movement, it would most likely cause immeasurable consequences. Anyone. Sun Yilin lowered his eyelids, covering the endless haze in his eyes. Mama, don't worry. In the future, I won't cause any trouble for Luo. Jin Qinhuang Fei. I won't. This was the only thing he could do now. As for the rest. Sun Yilin's fingernails were almost about to sink into the flesh of his palms. The wet nurse breathed a sigh of relief and patted her chest, unconsciously revealing a smile. This naturally couldn't be better. Then Gongzi, have a good rest. Soon, we should be leaving this place. All right, I'll have to trouble Mama. The wet nurse left the room and closed the door behind her. Sun Yilin sat in the same place, his head bowed for a long time, quiet and without a sound. Until a certain time, when he raised his head again, no one would be able to see any abnormality on his face. Jingwan probably didn't think that her wet nurse's words barely achieved her goal, but the opposite effect was even worse. So much so that when some things happened in the future, she couldn't find the reason. How Jin Qinhuang treated her, as long as one had eyes, they would be able to see it. Why was he the only one who held a different view and firmly believed that hearsay is false, and that what he heard from other people's mouths were all false? In fact, he had long known of this consequence. It wasn't just a preconceived notion. At this moment, Sun Yilin firmly believed that Li Hongyuan didn't treat Jingwan well. All the good that he showed was just an act. The purpose was to confuse everyone and make them think that he was a sentimental person, so that people would lower their vigilance towards him, so that he could act in secret. He couldn't see Jingwan and didn't know her true state. At first, at this very moment, his perception had never changed. The wet nurse went back to report to Jingwan and solemnly vowed that she had already spoken to Sun Gongzi. Jingwan chuckled. Oh? Then what did the wet nurse say? The wet nurse was about to repeat, but Li Hongyuan came back. Naturally, she immediately chose to keep her mouth shut. With such an interruption, Jingwan also forgot to ask again. Otherwise, she should have been able to perceive something. It was just that she missed it, which led to some immeasurable consequences. Li Hongyuan faintly swept a glance at the wet nurse, as if he knew what she was talking about. The wet nurse kept quiet out of fear, lowered her head, and stiffened her body. Jingwan got up and walked in front of Li Hongyuan. You can withdraw, I want to talk to Wang Ye. Even if a certain person never got angry with the people around her, it seemed that other than Gong Mama, everyone else was very afraid of him. When they could not get close, they would try their best not to get close. This made him feel rather helpless. Yes. The wet nurse and Qing Zhu quickly left. Jingwan's purpose was clear at a glance, and Li Hongyuan was too lazy to expose it. Ah Yuan, when are we leaving? We're already preparing. Jingwan nodded, and then seemed to have thought of something. So many adults, what do they think when they see you dressed like this? What do they think? Does death count as an atonement? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653571. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gur mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 301. What thoughts? Does death count as an apology? Li Hongyuan said thoughtfully. Jingwan snorted. If it was an official from Shannon County, it would be fine. After all, they had never seen Jin Qinhuang's extravagance and fastidiousness. However, the officials of Kai Ming Fu were different. They had personally experienced that scene. Now that this honorable lord was dressed so shabbily, it was a feeling that they could not bear to look straight at. They would not go so far as to apologize with death, but their hearts would definitely be perturbed. After all, they still cherished their lives very much. Let's not talk about them. I have already ordered them to send people into the mountains to look for people. According to the original plan, Gong Mama's group will be the first to return. The rest will slowly converge after leaving here. I reckon that when Gong Mama's group returns, the preparations here will be almost complete. After that, when we arrive at Chongzhou Fu, we will probably start to be busy for a while. Not only will I be busy, you will also be very busy. It can't be said that you are busier than me. It's still the same words. If someone gives it to you, just accept it. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, take it back and give it to Fu Huang to enrich the national treasury. Presumably, he will be quite happy. In the end, Li Hongyuan said sarcastically, "It would be good if he was really happy. I'm afraid that the more we give, the less happy he will be." The more they gave, the more these officials would be greedy. If the gifts that were casually given were so extravagant, then the gifts that were not taken out would definitely be even more expensive. In this way, should we collect more or less for him? If we collect more, he will be unhappy and that will be unfilial. If we collect less, we will connive at those vermin and endanger the river and that will be disloyal. It is truly difficult to balance loyalty and filial piety. Li Hongyuan had a rather awkward expression. Fu Huang is first a monarch and then a father. When it is difficult to balance loyalty and filial piety, naturally we will choose loyalty and abandon filial piety. Besides, helping him to stabilize the country, is that not the best filial piety? Jing Wan, comforted. Wang Fei's words are reasonable. Then we will have to trouble Wang Fei. Wang Fei will work hard and help Fu Huang collect more. Li Hongyuan's face was stern. Jing Wan couldn't hold back her laughter. Wasn't it a little inappropriate to be so serious about tricking Emperor Lu Qingdi? However, he had brought this upon himself. Jiangnan's officialdom had been messed up by many officials and his sons. He could hardly absolve himself from the blame. In the end, it was the result of poor supervision. If Li Hongyuan had not helped him expose it, he did not know how far this cancer would have spread. Perhaps the entire Jiangnan would have been completely divided up. As a result, the next emperor would not only not receive the taxes from Jiangnan, but would also have to spend money to fill the hole and restore normal operations. Of course, from Jingwan's point of view, this was Li Hongyuan clearing away obstacles for his future. Then, Granny Gong and the others returned. "Your nanny is quite dedicated to you. You can't wait any longer," Li Hongyuan said indifferently. "What's wrong? Is a Yuan jealous again?" Jingwan raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Probably." This was the first time such an uncertain answer had been given. In fact, Li Hongyuan was a little embarrassed. How should he put it? Since he was born, Granny Gong had been secretly watching him. Of course, he did not know for a long time in his previous life. When he came back, when he was 10 years old, he found out about her existence. After that, he had been deliberately training her. She had been with him for a long time. In the end, after serving Wan Wan, she completely sided with Wan Wan. She even disliked him. Well, this was what Li Hongyuan expected. So, even if he was a little jealous, there was nothing to say. In fact, when she was a female bodyguard, she had a problem with him. It was just that she did not say it out loud because he was the master. The reason was that she was influenced by her first master. Even in an isolated environment, she still hoped that the imperial noble consort's child could be as gentle and kind as the imperial noble consort. However, she also knew that it was impossible. In a place like the imperial noble consort, it might be possible to be gentle and kind if one wanted to live well, but one's feelings should never be dominant. The imperial noble consort was actually the best example. Wan Wan was more in line with her wishes. It was only because Wan Wan's temperament was somewhat similar to the imperial noble consort that she mentioned. Granny Gong's existence was more or less special to him. His tolerance was slightly higher than that of other people except for Wan Wan. However, Granny Gong had always been a person of self-restraint and etiquette. She never overstepped her boundaries and served her master wholeheartedly. Therefore, if she had a problem with him in some aspects, he would ignore it. Even if you want to put on a show, you have to complete it. I'll go and have a look. Jingwan chuckled. When Jingwan saw Granny Gong, she was really stunned. Originally, it was just a matter of putting on a show. As long as they avoided the soldiers who might enter the mountain, they did not need to go too deep. How could they be so embarrassed after leaving for less than 20 hours? It really seemed that they had spent a few days in the mountain, and some people were really injured. Jingwan hurried forward and grabbed Granny Gong. "Granny, what happened?" "Don't worry, Princess. They just encountered a pack of wolves." Jingwan's heart suddenly jumped to her throat. Her husband's bodyguards could be trusted by him, so they were not ordinary people. It seemed that none of them were intact. It could be seen that the number of wolves was quite considerable. However, Granny Gong, as a woman of the inner residence, you said, "Just a pack of wolves," so casually. "Is it really okay?" Jingwan was so worried in her heart that she did not notice this problem. "Granny, how are you? Are you hurt?" "Don't worry, Princess. I was just bitten. The wound is not deep. It's nothing serious." Granny Gong comforted Jingwan. On the contrary, the bodyguards behind Granny Gong lowered their heads and felt a little ashamed. Although the shock in their hearts gradually subsided, they would never forget that scene for the rest of their lives. Almost 20 wolves, 1/3 of them were killed by this granny who looked so serious. She was such an ordinary woman in daily life, but when she killed, she was so decisive and extremely cruel. At that moment, she was like a figure who walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe that the person in front of them was the same person. It was more like they were twins with completely different temperaments. Unfortunately, at this moment, there was no need to put on a show. Anyway, the officials did not dare to come close and could not hear what they said. Jingwan asked people to treat their wounds quickly. Li Hongyuan looked at Jingwan, who was worried and busy. His expression was indifferent, as if it had nothing to do with him. When the bodyguard's wounds were almost treated with the help of others, Li Hongyuan appeared. They hurriedly got up. "Greetings, Master." Li Hongyuan casually waved his hand. "What's the situation?" "Master, it should be purely an accident. After the wolves were killed, we carefully checked the surrounding situation. There was nothing unusual." However, Li Hongyuan was not satisfied with this answer. Send a message to the people outside. Investigate again. He knew very well that there was at least a group of people hidden in the dark. They had nothing to do with the real water bandits. It was only because of clan leader Pei's strange movements that the other party's plan was interrupted. The problem was that there was no trace of these people. The people who stayed in Kaming Mansion to keep an eye on the officials did not send any valuable information. Therefore, he could not let his guard down. Yes. Looking at it now, the people who stayed by Li Hongyuan's side were either weak or injured. Moreover, the people who served him were far from enough. It should be considered a good opportunity to operate. However, this matter was not urgent. No matter what, they had to reach Chongzhou Mansion first. Even if there was a girl who could be considered acceptable in this place, she was not one of their own. Everything was ready to go. Because the waterway in the middle was narrow, large ships could not enter. Similarly, they could only use small boats. Now that there were too many people, they could only split into batches. When the large number of soldiers had almost left, they carefully asked Li Hongyuan and the others to leave. Just like when Li Hongyuan saw them before, he did not make things difficult for them and left as he said. However, the officials who came from Kaming Mansion were exceptionally perturbed. Because at this time, Jin Qinhuang was increasingly cold and severe. It was clear that he was suppressing a burst of anger. The more he suppressed it, the more it would explode. It was better to vent some of it now. It must be known that the anger in Kaming Mansion had not been vented yet. Their emotions imperceptibly infected the people of Shannon County. As a result, all the officials seemed to shrink back a little. At this time, it was still considered early. The sun was far from reaching the top of their heads. Beads of sweat were falling down one by one. When Jingwan saw this, she felt a little pity. Was this living king of hell so terrifying? However, at this time, she naturally could not tear down her own husband's stage. Even if she was dressed in plain clothes, she still properly carried herself. With a cold face, she expressed that she was also quite unhappy. Her gaze swept over the former governor of Tongzhou County. It was only a demotion of 3 levels. Wasn't it a little too little? Then she took a look at the big winner, Governor Su. He still had a respectful and humble appearance. After they all boarded the small boat and left one after another, 2 soldiers knocked on Sun Yilan's door. "Sun Darren, it's time to go. Come in." Sun Yilan's voice that was neither sad nor happy came over. These 2 people happened to be searching with Sun Yilan and naturally knew about Sun Yilan's current state. Some gossip could not be said, but in fact, they sympathized with Sun Yilan. "You say, you have a dignified appearance, a strong background, and also received the emperor's favor. At a young age, you held an important position and had a boundless future. How many good girls in the world were waiting for you to choose from?" Well, they also did not understand this kind of thing. Perhaps Jin Qinhuang Fei was really that good. It was clearly not that long ago, but when Jingwan boarded the official boat on the canal again, she had a kind of absent-minded feeling. This experience seemed to be really special. This was also when a certain person had eliminated the dangerous elements. Otherwise, it would not be the so-called special, but thrilling and exciting. Thinking about that scene, would anyone like it? It was hard to say if one had not experienced it. However, unless one was someone who liked excitement, otherwise, under normal circumstances, no one would like it. Because the canal was still blocked, even if there were many official boats, there was no need to clear the area in advance. The journey was smooth and unimpeded. Because the wind had been following them, they arrived at Chongzhou Prefecture very quickly. The ferry in Chongzhou Prefecture was naturally not as good as in Kaming Prefecture. However, now was not the time to look at this. They roughly understood the situation of Li Hongyuan and the others, so they had prepared everything they needed. Not only that, it should be said that the women of the inner residence knew the ways of the inner residence better. The maids they had prepared were also the best. Perhaps they did not have any spare maids, but when they saw that there were only 2 or 3 maids, these madams looked at each other and smiled tacitly. They all secretly praised themselves for making a wise decision. The imperial family of Qi Yuan did not have the hobby of building palaces everywhere. Therefore, the place where they stayed was the best side courtyard in Chongzhou Prefecture. For the time being, they did not know who it belonged to. Li Hongyuan did not say a word from beginning to end. When he entered the side courtyard, he just went straight inside. Although he did not say anything, there was always an air of enough. The group of Darren naturally stayed in the front courtyard, but those madams entered the second gate. The guards and retainers that could be seen everywhere had now all become a row of beautiful maids. Jin Qinhuang's figure had already disappeared. It was a little regretful that they did not see his reaction. "Madams, it has been hard on you to carefully select these people," Jingwan said with a faint smile, but anyone could see that there was no smile in her eyes. All the madams' hearts thumped, thinking that this was bad. They only cared about Jin Qinhuang and forgot about Jin Qinhuang Fei. As long as it was a woman, they would not like someone to put beautiful women in front of their husband. Now that so many of them were placed, in her eyes, it was especially eye-catching. Although everything depended on Jin Qinhuang Fei also could not be neglected. This pillow talk was sometimes more powerful than anything else. One of the madam's mind turned quickly. To be able to serve Wang Yi and Wang Fei, that is the honor of this subject's wife and others. How could it be hard? However, these people were selected by this subject's wife from various families. They are certainly not as good as Wang Fei Nyongyang's personal people. When Wang Fei Nyongyang's people arrive, these obstructing people, whether Wang Fei Nyongyang wants to keep them or send them away, it will all be up to you. For now, We will have to inconvenience Wang Yi and you. Jingwan nodded her head indifferently, tacitly agreeing with their actions. The Furins secretly looked again. That, to let these people leave, it would take at least 2 or 3 days. Who knew if there would be any unforeseen events during this period of time? If Jin Qinhuang slept with the people himself, could he blame it on their heads? They were all secretly competing to see who would be the first to rise. That being the case, I won't. Wang Fei, it's not good. Mu Gonggong hurriedly trotted over, his face deathly pale. Wang Yi took the 2 servant girls who came in to bathe, She got the hang of it so quickly? Which family did this belong to? The madams looked at each other with hidden expectations. But Jingwan's face suddenly became not so good. Speak clearly. Wang Yi has strangled them to death. Mu Gonggong said, trembling a little. But whether it was real trembling or fake trembling, only he himself knew. Obviously, the madams were happy too early. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653574. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 302. Jingwan covered her eyes with her hands, hiding all her emotions. After a moment, she put down her hands and said coldly, Madams, you can go back first. Since this person came to this courtyard, it has nothing to do with your families. Obviously, this was to help them absolve themselves of the blame. One had to know that in this kind of situation, not to mention finding trouble with the murderer, only the murderer would vent his anger on others. If he really wanted to get to the bottom of this, then it was obvious that the family that the 2 maidservants originally belonged to would have to bear the responsibility. Jingwan said that the people in this courtyard had nothing to do with them. Naturally, she drew a clear line between them and the people in this courtyard. The joy and expectation on the madams' faces froze on their faces. Because of the shock that appeared in an instant, their faces were distorted. Obviously, their bodies had given such a direct reaction, but their minds were still in a daze. Only when Jingwan spoke did they respond with an "oh." In fact, they probably didn't know what they said. Jingwan didn't bother to pay attention to them anymore. She had already done her utmost benevolence. And see the guests out. She flicked her sleeves and left. This place was far from being familiar with. Jingwan casually asked a person to lead the way. The little maid was very excited about the task that fell on her. When she walked to Jingwan, she was even somewhat at a loss. However, she soon muttered in her heart, how could a dignified princess wear such coarse clothes that people like us disdained? Although she thought about it, she didn't dare to show the slightest abnormality. Perhaps in order to express herself as much as possible, the little maid tried to use innocent words to introduce the courtyard. Obviously, she didn't know what happened in the backyard. If it was in a normal situation, Jingwan might be in the mood to listen. But now, she only felt bored and unconsciously frowned. Qingzhu grabbed the little maid. Okay, let's stop here. Take this broken silver to buy sweets first. Later, the princess will reward you heavily. Although the little maid was somewhat unwilling, she naturally accepted the reward happily. Then she left while looking back 3 times with every step, hoping that Jingwan would let her stay. Although it was a bath, it was not in the bathroom at the back of the bedroom. Instead, it was a small hot spring at the back of the main courtyard. There was no door, only layers of gauze curtains. The faint sound of water could be heard. Obviously, Li Hongyuan was still inside. Jingwan looked at the person who was wrapped in the mat on the ground. She could only vaguely see a pair of bare feet. She no longer had any hope. This time, Li Hongyuan really did not hesitate to kill someone. In such a short time, it was not difficult to guess that he did not hesitate at all. Buy 2 thin coffins and bury them. Jingwan retracted her gaze. Could Jingwan's heart be as calm as still water in the face of the dead? No, it was just that he was already dead. What else could he do? 2 guards came forward, nimbly carried the bodies, and left quickly. They seemed to be quite skilled in their work. Jingwan looked at the small hot spring again. Although she had seen Li Hongyuan kill people before, it was under special circumstances. This time, Jingwan seemed to truly understand what it meant to be malicious, ruthless, and temperamental. 2 fresh lives were killed without any hesitation. She had told him not to kill unless it was necessary. He had said it well. What about these 2 people? Did they have to die? At this moment, Jingwan was actually a little hesitant. Originally, these 2 bodies could have been disposed of before she arrived. He could also have asked someone to keep the news a secret. But he did not do so. So, did he deliberately leave them for her to see? Jingwan stood in the same place, looking at an unknown place in a daze. Nurse Gong and the others stood to the side, anxious. But they could only be anxious. At this time, they could not say or do anything. Then, Jingwan finally came back to her senses. Nurse Gong, spread the news. Make sure everyone in this courtyard knows. There's no need to ban them. Yes. This method was not only to prevent some people from having evil thoughts, but also to prevent them from losing their lives. Jingwan finally lifted the layers of gauze curtains. When she reached the last layer, she happened to meet Li Hongyuan's eyes. At that moment, it was as if everything in the world was frozen. After calming down, Jingwan even thought about what it meant to have a gaze that lasted 10,000 years. This was probably it. No matter if the other person did something that made you unhappy, you could forgive and tolerate them. You had him in your heart, and he would always be there. That was all. She had probably fallen into this man's hands. Not to mention other things, when her 3 views could be changed for him, her bottom line could also be lowered again and again. What else was there to say? Perhaps they still needed to get used to each other, but many things were already confirmed. Li Hongyuan put his hands behind him on the edge of the hot spring, quietly looking at Jingwan. Similarly, he did not say anything. His eyes did not even have the gentleness and affection when he looked at Jingwan in the past. They were calm, without the slightest trace of emotion. Did that also represent his heart? No, that was not it. He was waiting. For the first time, he knew that waiting was actually a kind of torture. Those 2 people, must we kill them? Jingwan finally asked. No. Li Hongyuan replied without hesitation. He tilted his head slightly, as if he was looking at Jingwan more seriously. He did not say anything else, nor did he explain. He also did not show the slightest bit of guilt for going back on his words. It was as if he was certain that Jingwan would not be angry, or as if he did not care at all. Jingwan actually felt a little helpless in her heart. Wasn't he the one who did something wrong? Who was he trying to show such a self-righteous look to? What would happen if he gave in? At this time, being arrogant might really kill someone. Jingwan stepped forward and stepped into the water with her clothes on. She slowly swam to Li Hongyuan's side. Li Hongyuan took her into his arms and smiled sincerely. Obviously, Jingwan's actions really pleased him. He could not help but rub his forehead against Jingwan's. At this moment, he was like a child who had obtained his long-awaited beloved thing. Only the purest of joy was left. The wet clothes sticking to her body was not very comfortable, but Jingwan did not care. She rested her chin on Li Hongyuan's shoulder, and all the negative emotions in her heart dissipated. She lazily half-squinted her eyes and gently stroked his body without any hesitation. If I get angry and turn away, what will you do? Wan, why don't you take a guess? Li Hongyuan said meaningfully. She knew from his tone that it was definitely not something good. I'm not guessing, but it's most likely that I won't like it. So, Wan, you should feel wise for your choice. Li Hongyuan kissed her forehead again. It was not a wise choice, nor was it a deliberate avoidance of possible danger. It was just because of this man. Even if he did not show anything, she always felt that if she left, he would be sad. He would not show his sadness. How could she bear to? The two of them were sticky in the small hot spring, whispering sweet nothings to each other. The adults in the outer courtyard were not in a good mood, especially after learning about someone's atrocity. Compared to Li Hongyuan, Jing Wan, and the others, they were really not in a good mood, especially those of a certain age. Since last night, they had been tossing and turning, and basically did not eat or drink much. It could be said that they were physically and mentally exhausted. When they were on the boat, they had some time to rest, but in this state, how could they fall asleep? At this moment, they could not hold on any longer. Their bodies were really shaking. At this moment, they did not know if it was because they were frightened, but they actually fainted. Fainting at this time was not a bad thing. The others might look disdainful on the surface, but in their hearts, they might be a little envious. At least they could escape temporarily. However, it was probably not much different from drinking to drown one's sorrows. In the end, they still had to face it. Jingwan looked at the clothes Nanny Gong brought in and reached out to touch the material. It was of the best quality. These people are quite fast. However, Nanny Gong was not very satisfied. After all, they were rushed out. The workmanship and embroidery are not good. I guess the clothes are a little too big for the upper body. Prince and Princess, please bear with it for a few days. There may not be many things in Jiangnan, but there are definitely many embroiderers. Find more embroiderers, and don't use those complicated embroidery methods and patterns. Choose simple and delicate ones, and the final result will be the same. It's not that bad. Nanny, you can deal with the rest as you see fit. Embroidery was secondary. The workmanship and the fit were the most important. They had been used to it for a long time. If the workmanship was not good or the fit was not good, they could easily feel it. Li Hongyuan watched and listened idly. When they finished and Nanny Gong turned to leave, he stood up. He casually wiped off the water droplets on his body and then put on the clothes. Unconsciously, he frowned. As expected, the things rushed out are not good. See, it was like this. They knew what was good and bad when they put on the clothes. It's mainly because we don't know the size. It's good that we didn't make it too small for you. Jingwan helped him adjust the position of his shoulders. If these places were smaller, it would be too tight. Then you really wouldn't be able to put it on. Such a small thing, but they can make such a big mess. They should be guilty by another level. Jingwan smiled and didn't respond. For some people, it didn't make a difference whether they were guilty by another level or not. After putting on the clothes, they went back to the room to wash their hair. Looking at the things in the room, other than some decorations, the ordinary things were all newly bought. It was clear that they had put in a lot of effort. However, in Li Hongyuan's eyes, there were all kinds of disdain. If there was a better choice, he probably wouldn't have stretched out his hand. Wan, you go and tidy up first. Jingwan didn't stand on ceremony. She went directly to the cleaning room at the back. Then Eunuch Mu entered the room and reported the situation of the officials. Li Hongyuan didn't even lift his eyelids. Tell them to get out of here. Without my summons, they are not allowed to appear in front of me. Yes. It was the same trick, but the officials of Kaming Prefecture were familiar with it. They were unfamiliar with it the first time, but they were familiar with it the second time. Their expressions were normal. The officials of Chongzhou Prefecture had such a wonderful expression. However, without Li Hongyuan's order, the people of Kaming Prefecture could only waste their time here. They belonged to Tongzhou Prefecture, so they couldn't interfere in the affairs of Shannon Prefecture. Especially those soldiers could only shrink back. It was so miserable. From top to bottom, they had things to do in their own territory and were relaxed, but they had to pretend to be subservient here. As expected, the calmest one was still Governor Su. According to his words, it was rare for him to leave Tongzhou Prefecture. Now he had the chance, and he didn't have to worry about the government affairs. So why not? Seeing his hypocrisy, the former governor was so angry that his nose almost went crooked. He didn't clean up his mess, but now he wasted his time here. It should be known that the more time he wasted here, the more danger his family would be in. This old dog, either he cleaned it up himself, or he had made arrangements long ago. There was no problem even if he didn't stay here. Li Hongyuan didn't care what they thought. He stayed in the yard for 2 days and didn't go out. The people who were lost on the way were also found. They didn't encounter the same accident as Nanny Gong and others. Therefore, the maids were all fine. In addition, the other servants who stayed in Kaming Prefecture before also came to Chongzhou Prefecture. Jing Wan remembered that there was a problem in the kitchen. She asked her husband about it, but he was calm and not in a hurry to deal with it. Since he was calm, Jing Wan naturally didn't care about it anymore. On the 3rd day, Li Hongyuan finally made a move. With a single sentence, he gathered all of the more capable accountants of the entire Chongzhou Prefecture. Everyone was uneasy about what he was going to do. Li Hongyuan was very straightforward this time. He did not keep everyone in suspense. With a single order, he handed over all of the accounts of the Chongzhou Prefecture for the past 10 years from various aspects. This move was simple and crude. Previously, even if they thought of all ways to settle the accounts, 10 years was too long. No matter how they settled it, there would be loopholes. Moreover, they used all the accountants in Chongzhou Prefecture, including the merchants' private accounts, the various government offices' accounts, and the big houses' accounts. It could be said that all kinds of people were mixed together. Because of this, it was harder to fake it. The hearts of the officials were beating wildly. They tried to find all kinds of words to delay it. Li Hongyuan didn't say a word. Then, the blackguards were mobilized. Initially, there were 50 blackguards on the surface. Although they knew through certain channels that the number needed to be doubled, now, damn it, the number had reached 500. It was a dark mass. Just looking at it made people tremble. Even if there were tens of thousands of ordinary soldiers, they wouldn't have such a feeling. The blackguards wouldn't be courteous to you. If you dared to stop them, they wouldn't hesitate to draw a knife to your neck. If you snorted, you would see blood. Li Suyen personally led the team. He was overflowing with hostility. He was simply another version of the King of Hell. The person in charge at first tried to joke with him, but he directly cut off an arm, killing the chicken to warn the monkey. It could be said that he was ruthless. Therefore, the time to collect the account books was rather fast. They were all gathered in the courtyard where Li Hongyuan and the others were temporarily staying. Li Hongyuan showed up. All the officials in Chongzhou Prefecture were also gathered. They moved the Arhut bed and leaned against it in full view of everyone. Swinging his horsetail whisk, Eunuch Mu stepped forward and said to the accountants in a sharp voice, "Listen up, everyone. Each of you will have a part of these account books. Separate rooms have been prepared for each of you. Check them carefully. Don't count on cheating. The account books that have been checked will be handed over to other people to check. If the people behind you can't find out the truth, you have to consider more than just your own heads. Think about your family members. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653575. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 303. It was an obvious threat. Not only were the accountants trembling, but the officials beside them were also trembling. Eunuch Mu didn't seem to mind the trouble. He looked at the officials gloomily and said, "What His Highness means is that when these account books are all sorted out, you can go home. If you can do it in 1 day, then 2 days. If 2 days don't work, then 3 days. If 3 days don't work, then 4 to 5 days. Everything will be sorted out eventually. Of course, those who don't have a problem can go home. Otherwise, you'll have to move to another place. The black-robed guards were standing by the side. There was one person guarding the door of each room. There were 4 rooms inside. The door of each room was open, and the situation inside was clear at a glance. The degree of strictness was countless times worse than an imperial examination. Most of the officials only had one thought left in their minds. It's over, it's completely over. His Highness, isn't it inappropriate to let accountants outside the yamen check the accounts? Governor Sun stood out and said. The others nodded secretly in their hearts. If these people intervened, wouldn't everyone know the financial situation of the government? If father blames us, I'll bear the responsibility. You don't have to worry about it. Governor Su retreated and didn't speak anymore. It should be known that the accounts of Chongzhou Prefecture had nothing to do with him. The accountants came forward to take the account books with fear and trepidation. Then, they entered the room one by one and began to calculate. One must know that these people were all outstanding talents, and they had done plenty of falsification in the past as well. As such, they knew most of the tricks involved. Yet, before they had even flipped through the books, they were already sweating profusely. Li Hongyuan was also in a very leisurely mood to accompany them. The scorching sun was overhead. Li Hongyuan held up an oversized umbrella over his head. There was iced soup to dispel the heat, fresh fruits, and the fan of the imperial bodyguard. In comparison, the others were suffering. If there was no such contrast, perhaps they would feel a little better. Living king of hell, living king of hell. Whether it was his reckless means of not being afraid of offending anyone, or his vile nature of not taking others seriously, these 3 words were incisively and vividly displayed. If it had been anyone else, let alone the other princes, even Emperor Lu Chengdi would not have been so ruthless. Li Hongyuan waved his hand, and Eunuch Mu immediately ran to fetch a part of the account books that had been checked. The problems had been marked, so it was clear at a glance. Li Hongyuan flipped through them casually, but he didn't find any clues from Eunuch Mu's face. After flipping through one book, he threw it aside and turned to the next one. Your courage is much smaller than I expected. Was this an exaggeration? Could he let out a sigh of relief because of this? As expected, Jin Qinhuang was someone who did not understand the affairs of the general public and did not know the value of gold and silver. Mama Gong came over and said, Your Highness, it's time for lunch. Her Highness sent me to ask where the food is. Where do we need to put it? 1 bowl of noodle soup for each of us. We can just carry it and eat it. Where else do we need to put it? The corner of Mama Gong's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Your Highness, do you have to be so mean? It's just a meal, how can you go so far? Aren't you afraid of being cursed by so many people? Well, it was said that a scourge would live for 1,000 years. The scourge of scourges was the scourge of scourges. How many people had cursed him? He didn't seem to be hurt at all. Yes. After sitting for a while, Li Hongyuan stood up slowly. Obviously, he was ready to go back to enjoy his delicious food. He hadn't even taken a few steps when a large group of people came over with food. They walked up to Li Hongyuan and greeted him in an orderly manner. There was no lack of beautiful maids who had been left here before. However, no one dared to do anything unruly now, let alone seducing the master of the palace. Your Highness, Her Highness said that this table must be here and sent someone to ask. It was superfluous, so she asked us to bring it over. After all, they had been husband and wife for more than 2 months. In addition, they had been together day and night. Their relationship had warmed up quickly. Some things should be said and shouldn't be said, but they had spoken frankly. The tacit understanding gradually formed. For example, at this moment, Mama Gong hadn't gone back yet. Jingwan turned her head and guessed what Li Hongyuan might do. She directly made the decision. When Li Hongyuan saw the food, he roughly understood Jingwan's intention. He snorted mysteriously and left in a huff. The servants obeyed Her Highness's orders. They quickly set up the table and placed the food one by one. It could be said that the food was delicious. In addition, when the good wine was poured, the fragrance uncontrollably went into the nose. The crowd looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. Should they eat or not? They didn't even have breakfast and went out in a hurry. Their stomachs were already complaining about the empty city strategy. The leader was undoubtedly Governor Su. Although he couldn't intervene in the affairs of Shannon Commandery, in terms of rank, he was the highest. The governor and other people of Shannon Commandery hadn't arrived yet. The governor of Shannon Commandery had gone to other manors to inspect, but he hadn't found anyone yet. The governor happened to be absent. Everyone knew that these people would hide as long as they could. They would only show up when they couldn't hide anymore. Governor Su said, "If we don't eat, wouldn't it be a waste of Her Highness's kindness?" So, everyone ate without any pressure. After that, she sent food to the accountants. Of course, the food was of a lower class. There was no other way. The difference in class was obvious. No one would feel that there was anything wrong with it. If Jingwan were to make a fuss about it, it would be strange. On the contrary, even if the food was of a lower class, it was rare for the accountants to eat it. They temporarily put aside their worries and had a good appetite. Then, this group of black-robed guards naturally couldn't be left behind. They went to eat in batches. Don't blame Jingwan for being biased. This group of brothers' meals were better than those Darren. Of course, there were a lot of people. If they wanted to fill everyone's stomachs, the kitchen space was far from enough. They had to set up a temporary stove. After that, it was time for the various officials to contribute their manpower. Speaking of which, even if they lent people to Li Hongyuan, they still had to suffer and be frightened. How miserable was that? After the meal, the accountants continued to work. The others waited for Li Hongyuan's arrival. They waited and waited but didn't see his shadow. Although they didn't want to face Li Hongyuan, but if he was in front of them, they could feel a little more at ease. If they couldn't see him, who knew what kind of tricks he was secretly playing? However, in the current situation, these black-robed guards weren't just guarding those accountants. Naturally, they were also guarding them. So there was no way to inquire about anything. They could only hope that Jin Qinhuang was actually intoxicated by the warmth and tenderness and had been staying in the inner courtyard. However, was Li Hongyuan in the inner courtyard? As the saying goes, good things don't come true, bad things come true. Li Hongyuan really wasn't in the other courtyard at this moment. Instead, he went to the treasury of Chongzhou Prefecture. Of course, he also brought along Jingwan. Li Hongyuan wanted to check the treasury of Chongzhou Prefecture. The people guarding the treasury wanted to stop him. In the end, they were directly taken down by Li Suyen's men. Speaking of which, the number of people guarding the treasury wasn't small. It was far more than the number of black-robed guards that Li Hongyuan brought. However, this wasn't a problem of quantity. First of all, these soldiers had never seen blood, let alone holding a human life in their hands. Their imposing manner fell by a large margin. Furthermore, these ordinary soldiers were like the common people. They naturally revered the existence of the imperial family. With Li Hongyuan around, who would dare to use a sword? When the black-robed guards drew their swords and went forward, they all consciously threw away their swords and obediently crouched on the ground with both hands covering their heads. The ease of entering the treasury was a little out of Jingwan's expectations. The door was opened. Towards the shelves that were filled with silver ingots and gold bricks. Although it was the first time she entered this kind of place, Jingwan wasn't surprised. If it was really empty and completely empty, then it would be really strange. However, the treasury is this big? Then wouldn't Qiyuan's treasury really be able to gallop wildly on horseback? This situation only exists in Jiangnan. Speaking of which, the treasury of the prefecture city is slightly bigger. However, don't be fooled by its size. Usually, it's not bad to have 10% of the shelves displaying gold and silver. In a situation like this, there might be some every year when the treasury is handed over to the treasury. Of course, there should be more at that time. After all, too much is as bad as too little. Li Hongyuan explained. So this person didn't know? Haha. Then now, isn't the amount a little too much? Now was not the time to hand over the treasury. Trying to cover it up only makes it more conspicuous. Li Hongyuan casually took an ingot of silver, weighed it in his hand, and put it back. This is it fake? This was adding insult to injury. Did they think that Li Hongyuan was so incompetent that he couldn't even find out this? It's true that it's fake. However, Wan, guess what's the situation of the other treasury in Shannon Prefecture now? Jing Wan instantly understood what he meant and revealed an incredulous expression. Ah Yuan, are you saying that the silver came from other prefectures? Since the silver itself isn't fake, the origin of the silver can only be from other places. Otherwise, should the officials pay out of their own pockets, or should the merchants be generous? Since it's impossible, then this is probably the only way. Then, when you go to other places, they secretly transport these silver over. As long as they are one step ahead of you every time. If they don't notice this, they won't be on guard. It's obvious that this matter can be covered up. But now, Li Hongyuan saw through it at a glance. Jing Wan silently lit a candle for those people. How could this person not understand common affairs? He was simply a demon. If they wanted to deceive him and play tricks with him, they would probably be played by him in the end. Moreover, this person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance tried to fool him. The consequences would probably be greater than the matter itself. Then what is Ah Yuan going to do next? Set a trap for them to move the silver and then catch them in the act? I'm not interested in this kind of thing. Moreover, I'm being watched by everyone. This kind of thing isn't so easy to kill. Like a cicada shedding its shell, it also depends on the time, place, and people. Especially in the city, it's not so easy to operate. Wan, do you have any other suggestions? Leave someone to guard. Li Hongyuan shook his head. If there are too few people, it won't be of much use. We don't have to go through the main door to transport these things out. If there are too many people, we won't have enough manpower. We can barely take care of the front, but we will definitely be stretched out behind. So this is not realistic. Thinking about it, it was true. Jing Wan thought about it again. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. How about we melt all the gold and silver and make a large one? The kind that can't be moved. It's easier to melt the small ones to make a big one, but it's not so easy to melt the big ones to make a small one. At that time, whether we find a way to melt it or move it elsewhere, there will be a big movement. We only need to leave a few people behind to monitor. I think those people won't have the guts to do anything to the people you leave behind. This idea is not bad. Li Hongyuan touched his chin with interest. Or we can simply move to a place where the world can see. Anyway, it can't be moved easily, and we don't have to worry about it being stolen. Plus, there are so many people guarding it. If something goes wrong, for example, lost something, wouldn't it be very interesting? Hey, you're just trying to make trouble. If it really goes missing, Jing Wan will be the first to suspect me. And thinking about it, her idea was quite childish. Moreover, if you put it outside for people to see, what kind of art do you think it is? Or do you want to make it into a work of art? Li Hongyuan saw Jing Wan's eyes and knew what she was thinking. He reached out and brushed his fingers across her face. Am I that kind of person? He said with a little innocence. Anyone who knew Li Hongyuan even a little bit would think that he was that kind of person. Not seeing Jing Wan's unchanging eyes, Li Hongyuan sighed with a little sadness. The most important thing for me to do now is to accompany my wife. Being able to do what needs to be done is already not bad. Where would I have the leisure to do other things? Wan doesn't understand my intentions, really. Looking at Jing Wan, that pair of eyes became more and more bitter. Jing Wan couldn't bear it anymore and put her palm on his face. She clearly knew that he was pretending, but that face was still too foul, making people think that she did something heinous to him. Li Hongyuan held her hand and took the opportunity to rub against it with a gentle smile. Jing Wan pushed him away in disgust. He was clearly doing something immoral, but it gave people a very warm feeling. People who saw this kind of scene probably wouldn't think that it was fake. That kind of feeling couldn't be faked, and even if it was fake, it wouldn't be to this extent. In front of Jean Chin Wang Fei, Jean Chin Wang's entire person was completely different. He probably put her at the tip of his heart and loved her miserably. Digression, there's one more chapter later. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653576. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gur mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 304. Since they had already decided to melt the silver ingots and gold bricks, there was no need to be sloppy. Lu Wan, the melting place was just next to it, but there was no need for it at this time. What was needed was to make a large mold and move out all the gold and silver. It might be too late today. However, this was just a matter of saying one sentence. Li Hongyuan took Jing Wan for a stroll along the way before leisurely going back. And the various Darren were anxiously waiting until Jean Chin Wang appeared again. However, before they could relax, Jean Chin Wang threw them a heavy bomb. Jean Chin Wang expressed that when he went to the treasury just now and saw so much gold and silver, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and had a good idea. In Chongzhou Prefecture, wherever the scenery was good, he would prepare to make something there. Then, the next time the capital came to withdraw money, he would directly send it back and let Lu Chengdi have a look. He was now brainstorming to see what would be better to make. But those who knew the origin of this batch of gold and silver, whether they were alienated from Chongzhou Prefecture or not, their vision turned black and they almost fainted. Actually, relatively speaking, the people of Chongzhou Prefecture were a little better. It must be known that the other treasury was completely empty. What should they do? What should they do? However, some people were more concerned about whether this was Jean Chin Wang's sudden whim or he realized that he was deliberately doing this. Although in essence, it was more or less the same, but if it was the latter, it could only mean that Jean Chin Wang was not easy to fool. The areas that were not problematic in the accounts would have problems. All of you are mute. Did you not understand Ben Wang's meaning? Li Hongyuan supported his chin and said lightly, "It was best not to do anything and just let those gold and silver obediently stay in the treasury." The reason why they were mute was because they did not want to go up and add bricks and tiles when they knew that it was a trap prepared for them. But if they did not open their mouths, everything would be fine? Naive. Then they smiled stiffly and started to give their own suggestions insincerely. Perhaps it was to stall for time. The things they said were extremely complicated. Many parts were put together and every position was fragmented. In order to increase their persuasiveness, they even gave lengthy speeches and quoted classics, as if it would be intolerable if they didn't use it. They even argued until their faces turned red. Li Hongyuan nodded from time to time. No one knew whether he was nodding in agreement or praising the wonderful speeches of the officials. In the end, he said, "Everyone is right. It's just that it's hard to get everyone to agree. According to this prince's opinion, let's make it into an ingot. It's simple and saves time and effort. It also has a good meaning. It's a complete whole, and there's no need to worry about losing a part of it. It's settled then." Li Hongyuan made the final decision. Everyone's faces cracked as they looked at Li Hongyuan. Their eyes clearly said, "Are you kidding me?" Li Hongyuan nodded. "That's right, I'm just teasing you." Li Hongyuan didn't get angry, and he didn't cause any physical harm to them. However, almost everyone felt physically and mentally exhausted. Seeing that the time was almost up, Li Hongyuan went back to accompany his wife at a leisurely pace. Today, he spent a lot of effort to face such a group of rough men, and he liked each and every one of them. Jean Chin Wang's mood was a little unhappy, but their wonderful expressions before barely pleased him, so he didn't care that much. Then, Mu Gonggong stood up again. In their eyes, this castrated dog was the most likely. After all, when facing Jin Qin Wang, they dared to be angry but didn't dare to speak up. They didn't even dare to show it. Now that they were facing Mu Gonggong, it wasn't like that. But Mu Gonggong didn't mind at all. Who let him be so confident? No matter how angry these people were, they couldn't do anything to him. Facing these people who couldn't wait for him to die but couldn't do anything to him, his heart still felt a little vile pleasure. To let Jing Wan know of his thoughts, there was only one sentence. How could the word cheap be enough? Mu Gonggong only had one purpose for staying behind, and that was to pass on Wang Ye's words. He allowed them to go back and tidy up. Starting tomorrow, they would have to sleep on the floor in this courtyard. Oh, you don't need to bring too many things, and the servants also need to bring along. Who let your Chongzhou Fu be so shabby, to prepare such a shabby place for your mistress? It's also a little bigger than a palm. If there are too many things, there's no place to separate them. If there are too many people, there's no place to step on. You don't need to worry about food. Wang Fei has never treated people harshly in this aspect. Oh, I almost forgot. Wang Ye also said that if there are official matters that have not been dealt with, remember to go back and deal with them. Those are the important matters and cannot be delayed. Cannot be delayed. Let them go back earlier. It would have been dealt with earlier. Jingwan also knew that these people had been tortured badly by Li Hongyuan. But when she thought of the financial matters, she couldn't sympathize with them at all. In comparison, Li Hongyuan's little prank was simply a small matter and harmless. Naturally, no one dared to neglect what the living king of hell wanted to do. Even if they wanted to slack off, there would be people who would use special methods to remind them. And this time, the place Li Hongyuan chose was rather special. It was in front of a teacher's building. Although the significance of this teacher's building to Chongzhou Fu was far less than the significance of Kaming Academy to Kaming Prefecture, but from the name, one would know its significance to scholars. Even though everyone could come to this place, but most of the people who came and went were still scholars. Suddenly creating such a big commotion, it naturally attracted attention immediately. Then, they fell over each other to spread the news. More and more people gathered, not just those scholars. There were those who boldly went forward to inquire. After knowing the situation, many people were unable to restrain their anger, especially those scholars. This kind of action was simply an insult and stain to the teacher's building. Even if it was Jin Wangye, he could not do this. The voices of dissatisfaction grew louder and louder. There were even some people who disregarded everything and went forward to stop it. The situation became more and more intense, and it seemed that there was going to be an all-out fight. It must be known that because of the previous academy examinations, the matter had become very big. Until now, the provincial examinations had not been carried out. On the surface, the matter seemed to have temporarily calmed down, but it was only on the surface. Everyone knew that the longer the matter was dragged on, the worse the situation would become. They had long heard that the imperial court had sent a Wang Ye as an imperial envoy, but the other party had not done anything until now. This resentment had accumulated and deepened. In order to shift the hatred and also to create trouble for Li Hongyuan so that Li Hongyuan had no energy to focus on the salt policy, the people of Jiangnan's officialdom did not lack in publicizing Li Hongyuan's glorious deeds. A person with no redeeming qualities was sent to deal with the matters of the scholars. What did the imperial court treat them as? They were hot-blooded just to serve the imperial court. In the end, they were treated like this? Because Kai Ming Fu was not involved in the academy examinations, the scholars there were not affected. Naturally, they would not do anything to Li Hongyuan. This Chongzhou Fu was not the same. It was a direct disaster area. Even though the matter of the scholars hanging themselves did not occur, but their feelings of anger were not little at all. Li Hongyuan's action at this moment was simply like hitting the muzzle of a gun and detonating a barrel of gunpowder. Anger burned reason and then directly acted. In such a situation, not only did no one stand out to stop it, on the contrary, there were people fanning the flames. Otherwise, the situation would not have escalated so quickly. Speaking of which, even though the officials had been detained by Li Hongyuan, not all of the officials of Chongzhou were present. In reality, there were many officials who did not even have the right to stand in front of Li Hongyuan. These people could not see their superiors, but that did not mean they did not have a tacit understanding. When they learned that Li Hongyuan had chosen to forge large gold and silver ingots in front of the teacher's building, many people were secretly delighted. The opportunity had come. Some people had received instructions beforehand. In the chaos, not only did they act against the enemy, they also acted against their own people. From fists to flesh, to knives to flesh, it was only a matter of an instant. Angry roars were mixed with blood-curdling screams. There were also cries of murder and death, coming from who knows where. However, if one were to look closely, they would discover that in the chaotic crowd, there were a few people who would always make a move at the most appropriate time. They were agile and decisively stopped the fatal attacks. Therefore, no matter how chaotic the situation was, there were no casualties. The first to notice these people were naturally those who fanned the flames. They thought, "Oh no," and secretly prepared to retreat. However, they would often be caught from behind before they could take 3 steps back. Just when they did not know how to end the situation, a group of men in black seemed to have descended from the sky. Like sharp blades, they ruthlessly pierced through and separated the people at lightning speed. Anyone who resisted would be unceremoniously attacked. They would not faint, nor would they die. They only made them lose their ability to move for a short time. In the blink of an eye, the chaotic situation was completely under control. Then, the sound of gongs and drums rang, accompanied by the sound of "quickly retreat." 2 groups of soldiers quickly arrived and isolated the unrelated people outside. Li Hongyuan was at the front, followed by Yu Zhongqing, Li Suyen, and an Yi. At this moment, the 4 of them had the same thing on them. It was as cold as the edge of a blade. "It's just a small matter, how can it cause such a ruckus?" The small official in charge of this matter immediately came out and knelt on the ground. He was about to explain. Li Hongyuan's eyes swept over. "Take him down. Remove him from his position and investigate." He did not allow the other party to say a word. Li Suyen. Li Suyen flipped off the horse and saluted Li Hongyuan. Then, he just casually waved his hand. Then, the people who were mixed in the chaos immediately came out. Everyone was carrying 1 or more people in their hands. Looking at their clothes, they were those who participated in the task assigned by Li Hongyuan. Most of them were there, but there were 3 who were wearing student uniforms. One of them seemed to be very famous among the students. Because they saw him being treated like this, even the students who were unable to move had some expressions on their faces. "Students, please don't be angry. Wang Ye is here in person, he will give us justice." He hurriedly dissuaded them. When he looked at Li Hongyuan, he was neither servile nor overbearing. Before, he was modest, but now he was arrogant. No one felt that his attitude was wrong. Many people were convinced by his pride and felt that this was the role model of a scholar. Li Hongyuan sneered, "Wang Ye is here in person, who told you?" That person was slightly stuck. "I heard that Jin Wang Ye is handsome and unparalleled. Anyone who sees him, no one doesn't recognize him." "Heard? Where did you hear it?" "This is the first time Ben Wang left the capital. Regarding this face, how could it be known to everyone? Before you speak, you should think of a draft." When everyone heard it, it seemed that it was true. Not to mention that the other party was a member of the imperial family. Generally, people wouldn't dare to talk about him. Moreover, he was a man. Qi Yuan didn't have the so-called male style. Who would talk about a man's appearance for no reason? Even if it was a famous courtesan somewhere, it would be good if her beauty could leave the land. "Can't say it? I know quite a lot about you, so I hope you can maintain this lofty and unyielding character." Li Hongyuan's voice fell. Li Suyen cooperated and took out a booklet. She opened it and read out the other party's name, age, place of birth, and family background. It was a determined, diligent, filial, loyal, and righteous person. Although his family was poor, he had a proud and upright image. 4 months ago, a windfall fell from the sky. A huge sum of 50,000 taels of silver. He built a mansion, bought servants, and bought 4 beautiful concubines. He doted on his concubines and neglected his wife. He injured his father-in-law and brother-in-law. He ran amok in the village and joined hands with the academy's professors to secretly suppress 3 other students. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653577. HTML chapter error. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 305. Li Hongyuan raised his hand, and Li Suyen stopped her recitation. Shi Huan Net went to L. Come, tell me, where did the 50,000 taels come from? Although the scholar tried his best to remain calm, his experience was limited, and his temperament was far from it. Even the clan leader Pei would change his face in front of Li Hongyuan, let alone a character like him. His pale face had long betrayed him. After a long time, he finally found his voice. This student does not know what your highness is talking about. You do not know? No problem, Li Suyen, take him back. He does not need to say anything, just give him the punishment of the discipline commission. If he is still alive, no matter what he has done, we will let bygones be bygones. I will also personally give him 1,000,000 taels. This money, he can use it however he wants, and no one will question him. Yes. Your Highness, please do not worry. No matter what kind of person he is, no one who can withstand the punishment of the Discipline Commission has appeared yet. This subject is also very much looking forward to it. Li Suyen was a man of few words, but now she spouted some nonsense. She looked at the scholar like a knife, with extreme cruelty. What kind of place was the Discipline Commission? Many people probably did not know, especially outside of the capital. Those who knew of its existence and how terrifying it was were even fewer. But, unfortunately, this scholar knew. When he heard Li Hongyuan and Li Suyen's words, he trembled and was so scared that he wet himself. Your Highness, please spare my life. This student will speak everything. Then, like pouring beans, he spilled out all the people and things he knew. He was already a scholar, and did not need to participate in the college examination, but he needed to participate in the provincial examination. This kind of person should not have participated in the college examination's dance cheating case, but he did, and played an important role in it. Originally, he had no background. His great ability was only because he met Chongzhou Prefecture's arbiter young master by chance. They were birds of a feather. In the original plan, it was not just the college examination, but also the township examination after the college examination. However, after the matter was exposed, the township examination was not carried out. He played the role of an upright person and spoke out for the students in the college examination. As a result, his reputation among the students grew. Hearing this, the people around him were stunned, especially those students who were wholeheartedly protecting him. The usually upright, elegant, modest and friendly person was actually all fake, hypocritical, dirty, despicable and shameless. They didn't dare to believe it, but the truth was right in front of them. It was he himself who said it. It wasn't a confession made out of torture, it was just a few words of intimidation. Just a moment ago, he was still proud and unyielding, but in the blink of an eye, he became such a coward. They couldn't even deceive themselves and not believe it. They once had high hopes for him, but at this moment, they were filled with resentment. Their eyes were burning with anger and they really wanted to pounce on him to drink his blood and eat his flesh. However, because they couldn't move and the people outside were obstructed, they could only watch as the shameless person begged for mercy with tears and snot. Suddenly, a rock was thrown in from the outside and brushed past the side of his head. If he was hit by it, he would definitely bleed on the spot. Perhaps it was that person who took the lead and found a channel for others to vent their anger, throwing in all sorts of things. "Stop, don't be rude in front of His Highness." With a shout, the people outside also quieted down. Li Hongyuan didn't look at him again. "Put them in jail." Li Suyen, everyone he mentioned, including everyone on your list, from the lowest students to the Chongzhou Prefecture Arbiter, put them all in jail. Send someone to take charge of this matter and investigate it overnight. Tomorrow, this prince wants to know the truth of the Chongzhou Prefecture's college examination cheating case. In addition, immediately send someone to the capital of the 4 counties and detain the 4 arbiters at home. They are not allowed to contact any outsiders and wait for this prince to personally interrogate them. It was fine if he didn't move, but once he did, it was like a thunderbolt. "Yes." Li Suyen responded and sent out 40 people on the spot. Another 100 blackguards stepped out and arrested people in Chongzhou Prefecture. In reality, the people detaining the arbiters of the 4 counties had set off a day ago. The reason why they said it now was to alert the enemy. By the time they heard the news and took action, they were all under surveillance. 500 blackguards were all in Chongzhou Prefecture? Who told you that there were only 500 blackguards as reinforcements? Not only the arbiters, but also the arbiters of the various prefectures and even the arbiters of the counties were all under surveillance. Those sent out now were just for show. The arbiter of Chongzhou Prefecture was among the officials. When he heard the words of the student, he was already trembling like a sieve. At this moment, his legs went weak and he fainted. The other officials around him hurriedly avoided him as if he was the plague. Not to mention supporting him, at this moment, they were afraid that they would have anything to do with him. 2 blackguards stepped forward and unceremoniously lifted him up and dragged him away. Even so, no one dared to say a word. As for the other relevant personnel present, they were all taken away. After dealing with this matter swiftly and decisively, Li Hongyuan looked at the group of people who were paralyzed on the ground. "What do you all want to cause trouble today?" In the eyes of these students, Li Hongyuan came down to go through the motions, and it could be said that they deeply detested him. However, that was in the past. At this very moment, this impression could be said to have taken a 180-degree turn. It was very clear that this Jin Qin Wang was not inactive, but had already acted in secret. He had grasped a lot of evidence and was only waiting to act. They were misled by others and did unwise things. Thinking of this, many people's expressions changed. It was only now that they reacted. They had been used by others, used by their anger and ignorance. Among them, another student who was probably more reputable struggled to stand up and bowed deeply towards Li Hongyuan to express his apology. Then, he explained the whole story of the matter. Thinking about it again, the reason why they were so agitated was not because they had been incited again. The perpetrator was also these people who were brought out. Thinking about it now, this student's heart is extremely guilty. The first thing to study is to be sensible. This time, not only was I not sensible, I also believed in rumors and deeply misunderstood Wang Ye. Asking for Wang Ye's forgiveness. Misunderstood Ben Wang? It's not to the extent. Ben Wang has nothing other than a body of skin. In the entire capital, who doesn't know who doesn't know? The reason why His Majesty appointed Ben Wang as the imperial envoy is because Ben Wang does not touch any aspect and is not stingy with one. What Ben Wang wants to do, no one can control me and I'm not afraid of offending anyone. Because of this, people are afraid. This matter is very big and involves many people. There is probably no one more suitable than Ben Wang to be the imperial envoy. Those people in the capital have revealed a lot to the officials in Jiangnan. It seems that these people have also revealed a lot to you. Then, have they not told you that Ben Wang is a person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance? If you fall into Ben Wang's hands, even if you don't die, you will lose a layer of skin. If you are injured or die, Ben Wang's reputation will only be blackened by a layer. You will have nothing and the others will be quiet. The people who have a headache over this matter will probably not be left with a headache. Many people's faces changed, but at this time, they did not rashly do anything that angered them. Ben Wong is unreasonable, but there is no other way. Who let Ben Wong marry a reasonable Wong Fei? If Ben Wong were to dispose of you today, Wong Fei would blame Ben Wong later. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Today, Ben Wong will let you all go. Li Hongyuan lightly said. The students who were looking for trouble breathed a sigh of relief. Facing a Wong Fei, no matter what his true temperament was, this pressure was also very big. And today, even if they were used, it was indeed their fault. Receiving punishment was also a matter of course. However, even if this Wong Fei really had no redeeming qualities, as long as he could keep watch and make the people below him obediently do things, it was good. There was no superior who would do everything personally. Many thanks to Wang Ye. They breathed a sigh of relief, but the accompanying officials stretched a sheet of skin. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. They were the perpetrator, they were the perpetrator. The meaning of Jin Wong Fei's words could not be more obvious. It had only been 2 to 3 days, but they felt like they had lost 10 Jin. If they were to be picked on again, it was simply unimaginable. More importantly, they had the intention to use the students to scheme against Jin Qin Wang. From the looks of it now, it was clear that he was the one who beat them at their own game and schemed against them instead. No one died, the swiftest suppression, and the capture of the thorn, none of these were not the most powerful proof. And the result was also obvious. Using the more prestigious students as an example, using the most incisive facts to tell them what the truth was, then following this, no matter who Jin Qin Wang wanted to capture, even if it was someone who was once revered, no one would stand up. Because there was no need for someone to guide them, they would also subconsciously think that the person they revered, perhaps was the same as the person they trusted, with 2 faces and 2 faces. As a result, Jin Wong Fei's following actions would be much simpler. Choosing the location in front of the teacher's building was not a foolish decision, but a part of the plan. It was deliberately set up, it could not be more brilliant. Jin Wong Fei had been in Kai Ming Fu for so long and had nothing to do. Did they really think that he was deliberately standing there as a target to attract everyone's attention? The other matters had already been carried out in secret. Otherwise, where did the evidence in his hands come from? It also made people have no choice but to suspect, did he also have more evidence in his hands? The accompanying officials, on the surface, said that they were investigating and secretly said that they were helping. But in reality, what was going on? True and false, false and true, at this time, who could still trust? The person you trust could be said to be the person who would ruthlessly stab you in the back. No matter if it was one of your own people or not, as long as there was suspicion, all the huddles would fall apart. However, even if they knew the other party's intention, they still had to be led by the nose. This was not a conspiracy, but a genuine open conspiracy. There was no way to break it. Including Governor Su, they were all caught in a predicament. After all, compared to other people, he had more shameful things. And towards Li Hongyuan, this person, it was very frightening. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653578. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com Mobile Edition Reading Website. Bicken.com. Chapter 306. In the end, was all of this his arrangement, or was there an expert guiding him? No matter who it was, to some extent, it was a threat. Sigh. Personally, Governor Su was more inclined to the former, but there was no evidence, no proof. Moreover, He was also in a predicament and did not dare to act rashly. After all, if it was really as he expected, the slightest movement would be detected by the other party. Then, everything would be over. Therefore, he could only follow the other party and act according to the circumstances. Wang Ye, the gold and silver from the treasury has arrived. Li Hongyuan nodded indifferently. The craftsmen in charge of the casting did not dare to be negligent and stepped up their work. Although there were already people guessing that Jin Qinhuang did this for a purpose, but to have 2 big gold ingots in front of the teacher's building, no matter how they thought about it, it was still uncomfortable. Wang Ye, regarding your intentions, this student is really unable to speculate. Presumably, it is not a useless move. This student boldly asks, is it possible to know the reason? What do you think this gold and silver is? Li Hongyuan did not answer and asked instead. And this undoubtedly led to a lot of conjectures in the brain. Many people revealed an expression of sudden realization. However, regardless of whether it was a real realization or not, regardless of what they thought that what they thought was the truth and did not object to this matter. On the contrary, they felt that Jin Qinhuang was wise. The officials looked at each other in dismay. They did not think that Jin Qinhuang's light words solved the root of the problem. This. Not to mention the students, even they could not help but think more. Of course, it was all basically a conspiracy. No matter what, they would not pursue the answer from Jin Qinhuang. His specious words seemed to indicate that some things could not be announced. Everyone was understanding people. How could they go and make things difficult for Jin Qinhuang? That was really too insensible. Li Hongyuan faintly hooked the corner of his mouth. If he could not handle such a small matter, wouldn't he, Li Hongyuan, have lived in vain? Ben Wang has already written to the imperial court. The imperial court will send people to take over these gold and silver as soon as possible. During this time, you might as well help guard it together. That student was startled and immediately recovered. This student is duty-bound. With a bit of firmness of being entrusted with a heavy responsibility. After that, more and more gold and silver arrived, until all the silver in the treasury was gathered together. More and more people gathered around, and more than 99% of them had never seen so much money before. Boxes after boxes were filled with silver ingots and gold bricks. They unconsciously began to salivate, imagining how great it would be if all this money was theirs. However, seeing more and more officials, they could only dream about it. The number of people discussing this was definitely not a small number. However, most of the thoughts were that their Chongzhou government had quite a lot of money. However, according to Jin Qinhuang's intention, there seemed to be a problem with this money. Seeing the silver ingots and gold bricks being poured into the furnace one after another, the heat wave spreading in all directions made people sweat profusely. However, not many people left. Such a scene would probably only happen once in a lifetime. Your Highness, why don't you return first? Yu Zhongqing suggested. Li Hongyuan also had the same idea. It was so hot, who would want to stay here and suffer? He pulled on the reins and turned the horse around. With a squeeze of the horse's belly, the horse began to gallop. When the others saw the movement, respectfully sending off Your Highness. With one person taking the lead, more and more people followed one after another. The black-clothed guards only left behind 10 people, the rest all followed Li Hongyuan and left. And in the outermost area, a green cloth horse was quietly parked by the side of the road. An ordinary coachman sat at the front. The curtains of the carriage were half drawn, and there was also a beaded curtain. Because of this, the people outside could not see what was going on inside, but the people inside could see everything that was going on outside. The horse galloped past. Speaking of which, the carriage was not considered eye-catching, but it was noticed by Li Hongyuan. A light glance without any emotion. And the person in the carriage could not stop her heart from palpitating. Her slender jade hands covered it, rising and falling along with the rise and fall of her chest. Her upright sitting posture could not stop leaning towards the window, watching Li Hongyuan's departing figure. This was the man she was going to marry. Although he was probably a concubine, but this kind of man did not seem to make people resist. Especially just now, when he sat high on the horse's back, seemingly mocking and ridiculing, easily resolving the situation, it was so dazzling. Miss Jean Chin Wang has already gone far, A person who was probably a servant girl asked softly. Let's go. The woman's voice carried a natural gentleness, like a spring breeze that made people feel comfortable. Without needing to specifically instruct, the carriage slowly moved. The sound was clearly very soft. Under normal circumstances, the coachman outside would not be able to hear it. It could be seen that this coachman was not simple. It was just that the woman thought that all of this would pass quietly like this, that no one would know of her arrival. But was it really so? The person who had gone far away. Investigate. Li Hongyuan abruptly opened his mouth. Yes. Others might not understand what Li Hongyuan wanted to investigate, but an E answered naturally. He hadn't followed Li Hongyuan for a day or two. Although he still didn't understand his master's thoughts and shouldn't make wild guesses, he still had the necessary eyesight. With one look from Li Hongyuan, an E already understood everything. When Li Hongyuan returned to the side courtyard, he didn't care about the officials who had fallen behind him. He dismounted from his horse, threw away the reins, and directly returned to the inner courtyard. Your Highness has returned. A maidservant hurriedly served tea. Another maidservant went to pour some warm water for him to wash his face and hands. Li Hongyuan casually cleaned himself and threw the towel back onto the tray. Then, he went to change his clothes and came out. Where's Wan? Replying to Your Highness, the princess consort is entertaining a guest. The Futai madam just left, and another person came. Oh. Li Hongyuan smiled mysteriously. What did you bring to the door? The old madam of the mansion brought a pot of golden peony. I don't know the details of the people who came later, but it is said that there is a money tree. Golden peony? Money tree? Li Hongyuan murmured. Oh, it's really to his liking. Li Hongyuan didn't go to find Jingwan. He sat down and slowly drank tea. Before he finished his cup of tea, Jingwan came back. Behind her, there were people carrying things. Yuan is back. Has everything been settled? Jingwan sat down beside him. Li Hongyuan handed over the teacup in his hand. It's just a small matter. Naturally, it didn't take much effort. It's just that this prince went out for a trip, and Wan's harvest is quite rich. Looking at the two trees in front of him, he said, Golden peony, money tree, it really lives up to its name. That's right. Jingwan chuckled. The golden peony was a golden tree. From the pot to the soil, from the trunk, branches, flowers, and leaves, everything was of the same color. At least, because of the excellent craftsmanship, it looked very lifelike. People who didn't know that there really was such a special mutated peony in the world. The money tree was much taller than the golden peony. The trunk, branches, and leaves were all made of jade. This jade was naturally not of the same color, but not only the veins of the leaves, but also the texture of the bark. In addition to being slightly cool to the touch was very lifelike. Although it was clear that it was not carved out of a whole piece of jade, there was almost no interface in the appearance. Besides, the money on it, Jingwan couldn't see what material it was made of, but it was also very delicate. What's in the box? Li Hongyuan asked. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653579. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 307. Bodhi beads? There are quite a lot of varieties. Li Hongyuan stretched out his hand and used his finger to pick up a string, 108 small Vajra stones. He casually tossed it aside and picked up another string, 8 sunstones. He picked them up one by one to take a closer look, 21 moonstones, 14 golden toadstones, 10 5 eyes and 6 eyes, 12 mantu stones, 27 lotus seat stones, 27 white jade stones, 54 unicorn eyes, 54 plant seeds, 108 phoenix eyes, and finally this. He picked up a long string, 1080 stars and moons. Li Hongyuan did not throw the last string out directly. Instead, he played with them one by one in his hand. The quality of each type is very good. The selection of the Bodhi beads was meticulously done. The craftsmanship is also perfect. The texture is excellent, and the maintenance is appropriate. It can be seen that a lot of effort was put into it. Which family sent this? In the whole of Jiangnan, even the officials with the world's background would not be able to take out 1 or 2 strings at a time. After all, this is not something that can be bought with money. Relatively speaking, if you get such a thing, unless you are the mainstay of the family, it is more likely that you will bring it back to show filial piety to the elders in the clan. Jingwan nodded. Because of her grandmother in her previous life, she had some understanding of the Bodhi beads. In her previous life, it was not particularly difficult to obtain all kinds of Bodhi beads, but it was different here. Although she did not know very clearly, these Bodhi beads were very widely distributed. This was indeed not something that could be bought with money. It was something that could be encountered but not sought. If you could get 1 or 2 strings, you would either keep it for yourself or give it away. It was quite difficult to deliberately collect so many, especially the finished products. In the hands of some very important people, don't talk about buying or begging. If they knew that you were spying on them, you would be directly kicked out. It was sent by someone. The specific person did not say who it was. Only a post was left. I took a look, and there was no name on it. It should be the Bodhi beads that were collected directly, right? Li Hongyuan nodded. From this craftsmanship, it is almost certain that it was made by the same person. It should not have been made more than 3 years ago. Yuan is very familiar with the Bodhi beads? I only know about 3 or 4 types of Bodhi beads. I can't say that I know a lot. Li Hongyuan threw the prayer beads back. No matter who sent it, ask someone to take a look at it later. If there's no problem, Wan can keep it. Although in my opinion, these things that were deliberately made to curry favor have long lost their original value and meaning. They're just a relatively rare plaything. Take them back and give them away. Wan hasn't touched it, has she? Jingwan was speechless. Isn't it too late to say this now? It's true that I haven't touched her before. You're the one who touched her, aren't you? As long as you didn't touch it. Li Hongyuan didn't care about himself at all. Wan, do you think the person who gave the prayer beads has some special meaning? What special meaning could there be? Not to mention Qi Yuan, even in the previous dynasty, the common people were more fond of Buddhist items. Buddhist beads, Buddhist statues, and the like could not be more commonly seen. From high officials and nobles to commoners, how many people could see them? Could it be cursing you to become a monk and cursing me to become a nun? Yuan, aren't you too free? Li Hongyuan nodded. I'm quite free. It's not as busy as I expected. I have to deal with these useless people, but they all wash their necks clean and stick their necks under the knife. It's not challenging at all. His words were full of disdain. That's because you're not the one doing the work. Haven't you heard that the higher-ups run their mouths but the subordinates run their legs? You're so free. It's all because other people are busy. He was a classic example of taking advantage of others but still acting innocent. He really deserved a beating. If others heard this, they would curse him. Even if the higher-ups worked hard, without me taking charge of the overall situation, it's useless even if those idiots ran their legs. Even if they're free, Wan can't take credit for me. Jingwan looked at a certain someone's smug and slightly aggrieved expression. She felt that this man was simply getting smaller and smaller. She really didn't know what to say. It's just that the matter is too big. We have to be careful. Don't overturn the boat in a small canal. Li Hongyuan sighed softly. With a wife like Wan who always keeps her reasons spurring me, it's hard to be complacent and careless. Don't flatter me. Jingwan had always been very clear about her own weight. This is the truth. Why doesn't Wan believe it? The living king of hell expressed his helplessness. It was still the same sentence. If it was just him, it didn't matter at all if something happened. Because she was here, he didn't allow any mistakes. Jingwan glanced at him and was too lazy to pay attention to him. She went into the inner room to change her clothes. Li Hongyuan clicked his tongue and looked at the things in front of him again. They were all expensive. This was just the beginning. His expression became indifferent. No matter who sends things in, don't let your princess touch it. I'll have Anzhou follow them. Yes. Nanny Gong replied. She didn't promise anything. She would only do her best to protect her master. Occasionally, the maids didn't quite understand Li Hongyuan's words, but Nanny Gong could take it for granted. They didn't doubt anything. They just felt that Nanny Gong was very powerful. However, because the powerful impression of Nanny Gong had long been deeply ingrained and they were used to it, they never mentioned it in front of Jingwan. In this way, Jingwan repeatedly missed some opportunities to find out the truth. In fact, neither Li Hongyuan nor Nanny Gong deliberately hid it. Li Hongyuan raised his chin and Nanny Gong went out. She just said a few words at the door. Jingwan changed her clothes and came out. Anzhou had already come over. He checked everything one by one and made sure there was no problem. Li Hongyuan nodded. In the future, you don't have to go out for tasks. Just be a doctor in the mansion. In one sentence, he decided Anzhou's future. Yes. Anzhou replied naturally. He also didn't feel sad or happy. In reality, for a shadow guard, which was a highly dangerous occupation, being a physician was naturally not dangerous. In fact, it was much more relaxed and carefree. For a young and strong shadow guard, it could be considered a great thing. After all, it wasn't because Ran Zhong didn't complete the mission or was labeled as a bad person. On the contrary, it was because it was Ran Zhong that it was like this. They all knew how much their master cared about the female master. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was more important than their own lives. If there was any danger, then their master would not hesitate to give the order to protect the female master. However, Anzhou was used to following Li Hongyuan's orders. He wouldn't have any opinions or emotions. For Jingwan, the female master, he used to have some feelings in his heart, but now he didn't. He completely approved of her. He used to be a secret guard, number 9. He was good at medical skills and disguise. Wan, give him a new name. Li Hongyuan said casually. Things like naming were usually the master's business. However, at this time, no one would ask Li Hongyuan for any special intention at this moment. Jingwan sat beside Li Hongyuan. Number 9, so he'll be named after 9. Add a surname in front. What was his previous surname? Master, most of the secret guards have no roots. They don't know their origin or surname. It's the same for their gender. In this case, then in the future, follow Nanny Gong's surname. He'll be called Gong Zhou. Although there was no sadness or joy, when Jingwan said the last two words, and Zhou, no, Gong Zhou in the future, still trembled slightly. From now on, he would no longer only have a code name. He was a person who lived in the dark. He had a name and surname, which also meant that he had roots. Thank you, master. Jingwan just nodded and said no more. Li Hongyuan looked at her sideways. I thought you would let him be surnamed Luo. Everything goes too far. What's mine is Wan's. There's no need to distinguish so clearly. Everything goes too far. Jingwan gritted her teeth and repeated. Bastard, don't you understand human language? Okay. Wan has always been cautious. Anyway, it's not the first time. Jingwan was not sure that the blue veins on her forehead jumped. He knew what she meant, but he just had to twist it. Shut up. Li Hongyuan showed a very shocked expression. Isn't Wan always gentle and virtuous? How can she be so fierce? She's fierce to me. At the end of his words, he felt wronged. Li Hongyuan, I told you to shut up. This time, the blue veins on Jingwan's forehead really jumped. She really wanted to kick him. Jingwan's voice was not soft this time. Even the people outside heard it clearly. Their expressions were quite interesting. Speaking of which, Wang Fei's temper had always been very good. What did Wang Yi do this time to make Wang Fei so angry? But Wang Fei was the first person who dared to tell Wang Yi to shut up. As for the other people in the room, those who did not have much self-control covered their mouths. Their shoulders shook, and it was very difficult for them to hold back their laughter. Li Hongyuan saw that his wife was really angry. He did not pretend anymore. His lips slightly hooked up, and he waved his hand to let everyone leave. Naturally, no one dared to delay. They all bowed and quickly left. Li Hongyuan smiled faintly and pulled Jingwan into his arms. Jingwan glared at him, but the smile on his face did not disappear. Instead, it became more obvious. Why is my little sweetheart so attractive? Wan, don't you think so? Jingwan's face became even darker. But her little bit of strength, compared to other women, was much greater. In front of Li Hongyuan, it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Attractive? Are you trying to tease me? She gritted her teeth and wanted to bite him to death. How could that be? This husband just saw that Wan was so serious and wanted to joke with you. You really are my sweetheart, my life. Jingwan cursed in her heart. This bastard. If you tried to reason with him, he would purposely twist and turn your words 180 times. If you tried to be tough with him, he would say sweet words as soon as he opened his mouth. If you were angry with him, he would stick to you like sticky candy. In the end, she was the only one who was depressed. It was not that she did not warn herself not to lower herself to his level, but every time it happened, she could not control herself at all. Her self-control was getting worse and worse. Jingwan could not break free. She bit his neck mercilessly until her mouth was full of blood. Li Hongyuan did not even make a sound, let alone struggle. The corners of his mouth curled up and his eyes closed slightly. He looked like he was enjoying it. After Jingwan finished biting, she raised her head and deliberately licked the blood at the corner of her mouth. She wanted to show off to him. In the end, when she saw Li Hongyuan's expression, her heart skipped a beat. She failed to show off and even provoked a certain nerve of his. She knew that this man was mentally ill. Was this the reaction of a normal person? Wan, have you vented your anger? Do you want another 2 bites? His smile was so charming that it could turn people upside down. No need. I've already vented my anger. Really? Sure enough, Wan is the best. You vented your anger so easily. He rubbed his thumb on Jingwan's lips and stained it with his own blood. He slowly withdrew his thumb and licked it. His eyes were unusually explicit. Although she knew it was very dangerous, Jingwan could not stop her heart from trembling. Help, she was not normal either. Wan knows what's going on with your husband, right? In fact, in comparison, I'd rather taste Wan's blood. It's so delicious. What happened next was indescribable. Sure enough, the final result was 100 times worse than expected. Once again, Jingwan's body went limp. She probably would not have the chance to turn things around in this lifetime. However, as long as the husband's heart did not change, so what if she lived like this for the rest of her life? Jingwan gently rubbed her face on his arm. Her face became more and more beautiful with a smile, a happy smile. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653582. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Calm mobile version reading website. M. Bicon. Com. Chapter 308. Li Hongyuan leaned crookedly on the big pillow with one hand supporting his cheek. His hair was neatly tied up, but the collar of his clothes was a little messy. His whole person was very lazy, as if he was not in the situation. And he didn't get a response for a long time, and he didn't repeat it. He just waited quietly. After about the time to drink a cup of tea, he moved and reluctantly sat up straight. Eunuch Mu quickly and calmly served a cup of tea. Li Hongyuan lowered his head and took a sip of the nourishing tea prepared by his wife. To be honest, Li Hongyuan didn't like this tea very much. Although it didn't taste bad, after marrying his wife, he naturally followed her. For example, he didn't like most of the materials, but his wife said it was good for the body and gave it to him. He could eat it without changing his expression. Say it. Li Hongyuan put down the cup, moved his neck slightly, and slowly closed his eyes. And he concisely narrated. Those Bodhi beads were also sent by them. Li Hongyuan opened his eyes and didn't say a word. Obviously, this matter didn't cause any emotional fluctuations in him. Pass down the words. In half a month, Shannon County will enter the provincial examination. This prince will personally oversee it. Muan, write the memorial and respectfully ask Imperial Father to personally write the questions. He probably didn't expect Li Hongyuan's thoughts to jump so quickly. These were clearly two unrelated matters. However, no matter what decision Li Hongyuan made, they only needed to execute it. Currently, none of the people around Li Hongyuan could participate in the matter as an aide. However, he could handle these matters by himself. Such a big matter was naturally spread out immediately. In a very short period of time, almost everyone in the prefectural city quickly spread to the surrounding counties. At the same time, people were sent to inform other prefectures, especially Shannon County's Jianchuanzhou Prefecture City. As the location of the provincial examination in Shannon County, and it was a special period, they had to make preparations. After the officials in the outer courtyard of the courtyard learned of this, they looked at each other and then unanimously maintained silence. It was true that when he did not move, it was fine, but when he moved, it was like a thunderbolt. Moreover, at this time, the students were already waiting impatiently. They did not know when the end would come, and even felt that the road ahead was bleak. His sudden action was undoubtedly a great reassurance. Furthermore, with the head of education being detained, there was no need to worry about the same thing happening in the provincial examination. Furthermore, he had expressed that he would personally oversee the examination, respectfully inviting the emperor to personally draft the questions, making everyone feel at ease. There were 4 counties and 28 prefectures in Jiangnan. With Shannon County taking the lead, how could the other 3 counties sit still? No matter what the original attitude towards Jin Qinhuang was, at this time, no one would make things difficult for him. They might even flatter him and hope that the matters in their own territory could be resolved as soon as possible. After all, the source of students was also a part of the political achievements. If it was not resolved, then in this area, the evaluation would be the worst and it would not only affect the future of the students. After all, in this time's provincial examination, not every prefecture had problems. There were too many people who were worried and impatient. The students of Chongzhou Prefecture who were the first to receive the news, regardless of whether they were preparing to participate in this year's provincial examination or not, were all very excited. Previously, they had indeed wronged Jin Qinhuang. How was this not doing anything? He clearly had a card up his sleeve and was only waiting for the right opportunity. There were many who excitedly began to pack their things, preparing to immediately head to Chuanchuanzhou Prefecture City. Half a month was not a lot of time. Here, because there was a canal that directly connected the 2 prefectures, it was fast and convenient to travel. It should be known that for people in relatively remote areas, if their family was poor and could not wait in the prefecture city and had no choice but to return home, if they received the news and rushed over at this time, if something happened, they might not be able to return in half a month. But would there be people who would complain that this time was too rushed? No. As the saying goes, a long night is fraught with dreams. After the excitement died down, they could not help but worry about the people who had participated in the provincial examination. Obviously, that examination, no matter what the result was, would definitely be invalid. And those who were originally full of confidence to participate in the provincial examination could only have their thoughts fall through. This was not a big deal. At worst, they could come back next year and take the provincial examination again. They could even catch up with the previous year's metropolitan examination, a beautiful fantasy. It should be known that until now, there was still a portion of people who had conclusive evidence that participated in the fraud and were imprisoned in the prison. If they really had ulterior motives, then that was fine. But clearly, there were many among them who were momentarily blinded by greed for various reasons. What was more innocent was that they were framed. If they were deprived of the qualification to participate in the imperial examination, perhaps the one who was ruined would not be him alone. Even a portion of people who were going to participate in the provincial examination stayed behind at this time, wanting to see the final result. In fact, Jin Qin-Wang really did not let them down. On the second day, the results were completely out. The high efficiency was really rare. The people who were originally imprisoned, those who should be released were released, those who should be detained were detained, and those who should be punished were punished. And the main personnel involved were all detained. The specific results would have to wait for further trials. One thing that could be confirmed was that the officials involved had already been removed from their official hats. All the details were posted on the notice board. There was not the slightest bit of concealment. Everyone knew about it. Regarding this point, it was the result after Li Hongyuan asked Jingwan. This kind of completely open mode had its own benefits. Jingwan did not hesitate to present Buddha with borrowed flowers. And Li Hongyuan did not hesitate at all and completely accepted it. This kind of ability to nod his head as long as it was something beneficial, Jingwan actually sincerely admired him. This kind of person, even if it was in private matters, he could be rational when it came to matters that benefited the country and the people. He could stand high and see far. Even if he was not a wise ruler of a generation, he would not be too bad. Li Hongyuan also did not know Jingwan's thoughts. If he knew, he would probably laugh. People like him would not care about what other people thought, nor would he explain anything to the world. He only had one purpose, and that was to let people know who came up with this idea. Even if it could not be widely publicized now, as long as a few people knew about it, when it was promoted in the future, it could always let her stand in front of the stage. The hearts of the people, prestige. Li Hongyuan would not do things like winning the hearts of the people. He only did what he should do, but he would not hesitate to raise Jingwan's status. Even if doing this now might cause the emperor to be suspicious and think that he was using his wife's name to do something improper, he would not hesitate to do it. Those who were originally in despair in prison did not expect that not only would they be released in one piece, but their originally dead end would also be rekindled. This was because those who bought the exam questions were not permanently disqualified, but were banned from taking the exam for 3 years. 3 years was a waste of time for a small number of scholars because they had the ability to go all the way. Even if they knew the exam questions, they would not bother to buy it. Most people had studied for many years, so 3 years was just an extra 3 years for them. It did not affect them at all. Not to mention those who were unlucky and became the scapegoat. Not only did they not suffer any harm, they also received additional compensation. People like this were generally people with no background and were relatively poor. The compensation given to them was that their names would be recorded in the records. In the future, no matter where they were in the imperial examinations, their meals and lodging for a month would all be paid by the imperial court, no matter how long they took. Whether it was the former or the latter, in short, these people who originally felt that they were extremely unlucky all felt joy at the turn of events, especially the latter. They even felt that they were so lucky that they cried tears of joy for a moment. We are so grateful to our wise and mighty His Majesty that we shed tears of gratitude. Yes, the official statement was that this was the Emperor's intention. This was also Jingwan's masterpiece. However, it was obvious that this matter would win the hearts of the people, so of course, it was safest to place the title on the Emperor's head. Although Li Hongyuan did not really like it, he also knew that Jingwan was doing this completely for his sake. In the end, he could only nod his head. The college examination cheating case was considered to have officially come to an end in Chongzhou Prefecture. However, for this entire matter, this was only the beginning. At the same time, unbeknownst to everyone, Chongzhou Prefecture had also sent out a group of people to various counties and villages to pick up the examinees who had returned home. Jingwan's reason was very simple. After so many years of hard work, perhaps she had been waiting for this once. It was fine for the rich, as they could just wait another year if they missed it. However, for those whose entire family had tightened their belts to support a scholar, perhaps they would not be able to survive another year. Moreover, this time was so tight because of her husband. As a virtuous wife, she naturally had to help clean up the aftermath. Although her last words were teasing, Li Hongyuan enjoyed it very much. Regardless of whether it's subsidies or transportation, they can all be used within the scope of Qiyuan. It might seem like it costs a lot, but it's actually not. After all, most of the people are scholars and rich people. The specific details can be slowly considered. However, there is no rush. It can wait until later, when you rise to the top. And this provincial examination, why is it not held in autumn? The normal time is in early May. However, it is already summer. The provincial examination has 3 rounds, 9 days and 7 nights. If the weather is cooler, it will definitely be more comfortable. Li Hongyuan had always known that Jingwan had a righteous heart. Towards the weak and the poor, she had the kindness of wishing the best for everyone. As long as she was given a chance, she would definitely work hard for it. This righteousness might have something to do with her background, or perhaps it was in her nature to have such feelings. Li Hongyuan might have scoffed at such feelings if it were someone else. However, when it came to Jingwan, it made him feel that his Wan was indeed the most special and wonderful person in the world. When we return to the capital, look for your grandfather. He is the minister of the Ministry of Appointments. The imperial examination is under the Ministry of Appointments. Naturally, he will be the one to worry about the relevant matters. If Wan has any thoughts, just give me a general idea. The rest will be left to the others to handle. They are not raised for nothing. Jingwan did not comment on Li Hongyuan's supreme thinking of working people. It is still early. Was it early? At most, it would only be 3 years. Li Hongyuan rested his head on Jingwan's thigh and slowly closed his eyes. In addition, the things that Li Hongyuan and the others had brought along were salvaged one after another. To be honest, all the people involved were shocked speechless. They carried a feeling of fear and trepidation. Every item was too precious, so much so that the people salvaging them were not only careful, they also did not dare to have the slightest bit of greedy thoughts. Because any one of these items could cost the lives of their entire family. They had already been sternly warned before. When they were being transported to Chongzhou Prefecture, the various officials' wives came to take a look under the guise of helping. After all, they had already heard that Jin Qinhuang's family property was very rich. However, they did not know if they did not see. Once they saw, they were shocked. Not to mention other things, they were all women. The first thing that came to mind was naturally Jingwan's clothes. Just one look was enough to make them completely stunned. After that, their eyes turned red and their hearts were sour. They were all women, but why was the difference so big? A set of head ornaments, perhaps it was lower than all of their jewelry. After calming down a little, apprehension emerged in their hearts. So many good things, the little that their own family gave seemed to be completely insufficient. In this way, was it really useful? It was said that Jin Qinhuang's wealth could rival a country and was simply difficult to bribe. However, Jin Qinhuang Fei had indeed accepted their things and did not even refuse them. Perhaps it should still have some use? Moreover, even if Jin Qinhuang had it, it was not Jin Qinhuang Fei's private property. That's right. The eyes of the Furen lit up. After seeing the wealth of Jin Qinhuang Fu, it would definitely nurture Jin Qinhuang Fei's greedy heart. However, she certainly would not dare to easily use the things of Jin Qinhuang Fu. Moreover, Jin Qinhuang Fu had many women and many children. No matter how many things there were, it could be divided. However, if it was something that was grasped in the palm of her hand, then it would only belong to her and her children. Now, a great opportunity was placed in front of her. The things that Jin Qin-Wang disdained, Jin Qin-Wang Fei would take a fancy to. Jin Qin-Wang could not be bribed, but Jin Qin-Wang Fei could. And now, Jin Qin-Wang Fei had a lot of influence on Jin Qin-Wang Fei. The foreign who thought that they had seen through the crux of the matter, their thoughts turned like lightning and they already had a plan. After that, the things that Jingwan received, in addition to some good things, also appeared a large amount of gold and silver notes. Jingwan's smiling expression on her face disappeared, but her heart became colder and colder. Only 6th or 7th rank officials, they could give out tens of thousands of taels. All kinds of gold, silver, jewelry, antiques and paintings were also not few. Jingwan threw all these things to Li Hongyuan, packed them all up and sent them back to the capital to Fu Huang. Looking at the current situation, the entire Jiangnan officialdom will only be more serious than expected. Moreover, it is estimated that there will not be anything clean. After all, once you enter this big dye vat, even if you want to be clean, others will have to dye you black. Those who are too clean will not be able to survive. In this way, if the investigation really turns the sky upside down, I'm afraid that there will be a complete change of blood. That way, the movement will be too big. Perhaps the entire Qi Yuan will be affected. Why don't we directly release some specious news and let them spend money to avoid disaster and deal with the most serious group of people? The rest can be slowly replaced, cleaned up, transferred far away, demoted, dismissed, or imprisoned. There will always be a way, just don't do it all at once. Wan, are you sure you want to do this? Can't you? It's not that you can't. In fact, this is similar to my original plan. However, I plan to clean up a larger area and my methods will be more ruthless. Naturally, you will have to spit out what you have eaten. Moreover, it's impossible to just spit it out and be done with it. Being an ox or a horse for the rest of your life is the lightest punishment. Your methods are gentler, and your influence will indeed be reduced to the lowest. However, in this way, Wan, your reputation, the most greedy person in Qi Yuan? Perhaps there will be no one like you before and after. Li Hongyuan teased. Fu Huang will prefer this kind of situation. That's right. He doesn't like big movements, and he doesn't like such a big stain on his prosperous era. Let's go back and ask for benefits from him. Jingwan smiled and nodded. Thus, she rolled up her sleeves and prepared to work hard to become the most greedy person in history. The account books that Li Hongyuan asked people to move to the side courtyard were almost cleaned up, and the loopholes in the accounts were basically found. As for the deeper things, for example, things that only cost 50 taels but cost 500 taels, Li Hongyuan pretended not to know and did not continue to dig. As for these officials, one after another, they were released. Naturally, the more they bled, the faster they would be sent back. Those who figured this out naturally couldn't care less about the pain and sent them back. Although Jingwan asked for all of it to be sent to Chengdi, Li Hongyuan still asked people to selectively intercept some of it and did it quite naturally. At the same time, Chengdi also basically knew about Li Hongyuan's actions in Chongzhou Prefecture. His joy at his son's safety seemed to have faded by a lot. He was somewhat silent and basically did not say anything. There were some things that he was not too sure about until he received the memorials from Yu Zhongqing and Li Suyen. The former wrote in detail about Li Hongyuan's actions, while the latter talked about the mission that Li Hongyuan had sent. Finally, he smiled and was relieved. However, he also regretted that such a capable son could not become the successor. He was happy. With a wave of his hand, he drafted questions and gathered the officials to help. In order not to be a burden, they were all given food and accommodation in the palace. They could only return home after his son finished presiding over the examination. A group of capable and important officials were here to set questions for the provincial examination. He could only pinch his nose and accept it. https://www.bican com/11/11807/6653584. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. Bicken.com. Chapter 309. Time was already tight enough, yet Emperor Cheng also had a whim to do something. He disliked that one set of questions was too little, so he divided the officials into several groups. Under the circumstances where they were not allowed to reveal the questions, he made a total of 3 sets of questions. Then he prepared to let his son casually choose one to use. To put it nicely, he strived for fairness and strictness. The officials silently cursed that he was purely looking for trouble. It was just a county's provincial examination. Even if it was a metropolitan examination, there had never been such a big spectacle. Was there a need to? Moreover, at this juncture, there was really no one who would be interested in this question and take the huge risk to reveal it to the people below. People who really did this were not daring because of their skills, but purely because there was a hole in their mother's head, an idiot. Therefore, some people looked at Emperor Cheng's current actions as if they were looking at an idiot, and Emperor Cheng still thought that he was wise. Because of this special period, it was understandable for Jin Qin Wang to play such a trick. But as the monarch of a country, you regarded the originally more important matters as the most important, so important that you neglected other matters and wasted too much manpower and time. The gains simply did not make up for the losses. Many old officials sighed in their hearts. Emperor Chang sent the blackguard commander to personally bring people to deliver the questions and rush to Chongzhou Prefecture in Jiangnan at the fastest speed. At the same time, he brought back the 2 gold and silver ingots. When the blackguard commander arrived at Chongzhou Prefecture and delivered the questions to Li Hongyuan, it was only 2 days before the scheduled examination time, and it was already June. Li Hongyuan had only met this commander once when he was taking the test, and then he had left him with his direct subordinate, Li Suyen. Speaking of which, as a commander, his presence was not as high as that of a commander. He even had to be respectful to his subordinates, which was enough. Fortunately, this person's mentality was relatively calm. He knew that he was only helping others to occupy a position and would sooner or later roll down. Thus, even if Emperor Chang did not assign him, the important matters of the blackguard were basically handed over to Li Suyen and became a hands-off shopkeeper. Li Suyen himself was very clear. He seriously completed the tasks that were given to him and did not overstep the boundaries of seniority. Then Li Suyen brought him up the peak to see the 2 gold and silver ingots in front of the teacher's building. He had the same expression as other people who saw that scene for the first time, very unpredictable. Jing Wan also went to take a look at the 2 ingots. She simply couldn't bear to look at them. If it was anywhere else, the sense of dissonance would not be so strong, but that place was really... Although she knew that Jin Qin Wang had a special reason, Jing Wan saw the old teacher shaking his head and sighing. Jing Wan really wanted to tell them that there was a special reason for this. That bastard did it on purpose. The blackguard commander might have cared a lot about those test questions, but Li Hongyuan didn't take them seriously at all. He casually tore open the seal and flipped it open to take a look. Although Jing Wan had never seen the official exam questions, she had seen a lot of excerpts. Thinking about the duration of the exam, she knew that there were definitely a lot of questions. In the first round, Sutra and Moi, in Jing Wan's opinion, this sutra was a bit like the fill-in-the-blanks exams in her previous life. The questions were usually excerpts from a sutra and cover up a few words. The examinee had to fill in the missing words. As for Moi, it was a question and answer about the sutra. The number of questions was so rich that it made Jing Wan tremble a bit when she saw it. In the second round, there was a poem with 5 characters and 8 rhymes, for sutra poems, and a selection of 3 books from several important books. There was also an imperial edict, a judgment, a statement, and a warning. These were generally limited by the number of words. The minimum number of words would not be less than 200. That was written in Chinese and not in the vernacular. 200 to 300 words, if translated, it might be more than 1,000. The third round was a policy discussion. Combining the theory of sutra, one would express their opinions on the current political affairs of the time. This wasn't like the palace examination, where one question could be solved. There were 5 questions. And in Qi Yuan, the results of the third round were quite important. Of course, as time passed, it had decreased compared to the beginning of the country. Jingwan also didn't avoid it and looked, staying in the exam room for so many days in this kind of weather is really torturous. Is Wan being generous again and preparing to use her own money to get them some ice or something? Jingwan raised her eyebrows. That's a good idea. However, perhaps she doesn't need to use her own money. Let the high officials and noble people of Sichuan Zhoufu contribute to support the country in selecting talents. It's only a little ice, isn't it? Li Hongyuan chuckled. In the eyes of some people, Wan is probably the number 1 black-hearted person. After this trip to Jiangnan, your reputation is probably even greater than this prince's. I'm helping Wang Ye attract hatred so that you can do things more conveniently. However, my reputation is definitely not as great as yours. No matter how many things I receive, no matter how much those people who give me things curse in their hearts, they will keep quiet on the surface. To the common people, I'm still the high and mighty Jin Wangfei. Li Hongyuan nodded with a smile in his eyes. As for the meaning, there's no need to delve into it. Then Jingwan thought of an important issue. As far as she knew, generally speaking, 2 days before the exam, the examiners would enter the imperial examination. First, a banquet would be held and all the inner and outer curtains officials would attend. After the banquet, the inner curtains officials would enter the inner curtains of the rear hall. The examiners would close the door and the inner and outer curtains officials would not interact with each other. Other than marking the exam papers, the inner curtains officials couldn't talk about other matters. However, now, not to mention whether Jin Wangye was the main examiner or not, he was still very far away from the exam site. These questions should have been copied by each examinee, but now there were only 3 original questions. It should be known that in the whole of Jiangnan, there were more than 20,000 examinees every year. On average, there were more than 5,000 examinees per fu. With each person having a set of questions, the workload was definitely not small. Even if they set off now, they would only reach Sichuan Zhoufu tomorrow. Was it certain that the exam questions would be delivered to the examinees the day after tomorrow? Jingwan raised her doubts. Ah Yuan, this time you seem to be very unreliable. She ridiculed. At this time, the examiners of Sichuan Zhoufu, one by one, were probably like ants on a hot pan, anxiously running around in circles. Li Hongyuan disagreed and was not the least bit anxious. Just adjust the order of the exam and it will be over. Just put the first round at the end. How simple. Jingwan opened her mouth and was speechless. According to what he said, indeed, the content that needed to be copied the most should be put at the end. In the first few days of the exam, there was no need to worry about not being able to produce the exam papers. As for whether it was in accordance with the rules or not, the living king of hell was born to break the rules, or it could be said that the living king of hell was not in accordance with the rules. The commander of the blackguard breathed a sigh of relief. The things that were originally packed to become an emperor had not been sent away yet. Now, they were all given to him. Then, Li Hongyuan and the others flung their sleeves and boarded the ship to leave for Sichuan Zhoufu. When Li Suyen came to say goodbye to the superior, he only knew about it. It could be said that he was dumbfounded. He also did not know the specific time of the exam, otherwise, he probably would not be so relaxed. Now that he knew, his forehead was full of cold sweat. He inwardly blamed himself. Did he delay the time? Leaving Chongzhou Zhoufu this time was not like leaving Kai Mingfu with anger. Therefore, the people who should be taken away were all taken away. In the end, the people who stayed in the other courtyard were only missing the 2 who were strangled to death by Li Hongyuan. The rest were the same as when Jingwan and the others moved in. The Furans, whose family property had shrunk by more than half, did not have the mood to care about these things. Now, their impression of Jing Yuan was that, on the surface, she looked gentle and kind, but in reality, she had a Buddha's mouth and a snake's heart. She was ruthless and black-hearted, greedy by nature, a bottomless pit of dissatisfaction. Not only that, she was also jealous and did not allow any other woman to get close to Jin Qinhuang. How could such a person marry into the imperial family? Sure enough, her disguise was too good and she deceived too many people. In addition, the fact that Jin Qinhuang was henpecked was very surprising. Otherwise, why would he guard such a woman and ignore other beauties? Before Jin Qinhuang got married, wasn't he famous for being dissolute and fond of beauties? This kind of change, could it be because he suddenly cultivated his heart and character? It was absolutely impossible. As the saying goes, mountains and rivers are easy to change, but one's nature is hard to change. Therefore, it could only be that Jin Qinhuang Fei was too fierce that even Jin Qinhuang, who was known as the living king of hell, could be tidied up by her. The matter of money could not be discussed, but this aspect could be discussed. Wasn't it completely consistent with some of the rumors in Kai Ming Fu? Just as they were about to set sail on the canal, someone came to report that there were 2 young masters and young ladies from the aristocratic Min clan who were out on a visit and were about to return home. They learned that Jin Qinhuang was heading to Chuanzhou Fu and wondered if they could travel together to protect themselves. Li Hongyuan waved his hand indifferently, which could be considered as agreeing. After all, the Min clan could be considered to have paid a lot of qi yuan. Jing Yuan saw a flash of ridicule in Li Hongyuan's eyes. What? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653585. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 310. As an aristocratic family, unless it was on the decline or there was a special situation like the Pei clan, there would be more than 1 or 2 people who worked for the imperial court. The so-called aristocratic family paid attention to the status of the aristocratic family. Without power to rely on, it could not be called an aristocratic family. It would also be suppressed and quickly declined. The Pei clan had been like this for nearly 100 years, which was extremely rare. However, although it looked as glorious as before, it had actually reached a point where it was in imminent danger. If the Pei family could not find a feasible solution, it would collapse in less than 10 years. The speed of collapse would be far faster than the process of a normal family's decline. Although Li Hongyuan had trimmed the Pei family very thoroughly in his previous life, it did not mean that he did not prevent the Pei family from being uprooted. At that time, Li Hongyuan's birth mother's identity was exposed. Even if he did not like the Pei family, it was still his maternal family. If others casually added insult to injury, who knew if it would make him unhappy? Some things could be done casually, but others could not touch it. Especially when facing a temperamental person like Li Hongyuan, they had to be careful. Therefore, no matter what the Pei family did, others watched coldly from the sidelines. Not to mention the aristocratic families, it was very common for the family members of officials with a certain status to want to hitch a ride in such a situation. Under normal circumstances, it was not because they were worried about the safety of the road. Although it was safer and more convenient, it was more to show a kind of attitude. It was a kind of respect for the imperial family and recognition of its power. Therefore, Jing Yuan was not surprised that someone wanted to travel with them. Her husband showed such an attitude. There was definitely a problem. Jing Yuan sat leisurely and raised her chin slightly. She looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Her face was almost saying, "I'm waiting. Hurry up and say it clearly." Some people think too highly of themselves and think too highly of themselves. They always think that everything will go according to their predetermined direction. Although she did not know what happened, Jingwan almost instantly understood who he was talking about. Since the two were linked together, it was obvious. The Pei family? Li Hongyuan smiled but did not say anything. The answer was obvious. It can't be the patriarch of the Pei clan. Could it be an important member of the Pei clan? The Pei family attempted to use me to revive the clan. When they found out that it was not so easy to achieve and that there was no other way, they naturally wanted to use other methods to influence or even influence your husband. Tell me, for a man like you, when threats and promises do not work, what methods do you use? Jingwan naturally thought of a certain possibility at the first moment. Her face instantly turned a little dark, and she put on a fake smile as she opened her mouth. Jin Qin Wang, this peach blossom really opens wherever you go. Li Hongyuan's eyes were tinged with a hint of a smile. So, Wan, you have to work a little harder. You're a good peach blossom, but you have to destroy the rotten ones. Seeing Li Hongyuan like this, Jingwan's unhappiness instantly dissipated. No matter how many potential rivals there were, as long as this man did not have any thoughts, there would not be any threat. In that case, she would be looking for trouble if she made a fuss here. As a qualified husband, you have to take care of your own love rivals. You also have to take care of your wife's love rivals, understand? Although Jingwan's words were unfamiliar, Li Hongyuan understood her meaning. His love rivals? Wan, are you sure you want this husband to take care of everything? This husband does not mind working hard. On the contrary, as long as you nod your head, this husband will be very willing to ensure that it will be handled cleanly. That trace of hostility and bloodthirstiness was not concealed. Jingwan's heart trembled. How could she forget this bastard's attributes? As he said, if she nodded her head, he would definitely handle it very, very cleanly. So clean that not even a speck of dust would be left. Not to mention Sun Yilin and the others, those women who simply adored him would also not be guilty of death. As husband and wife, naturally I can't just let my husband take care of everything. Yuan has a myriad of affairs to attend to every day. You don't have to worry about this small matter, I will take care of it fully. This is very good. This husband is very much looking forward to Wan's performance. Jingwan's little person in her heart could not stop tears from streaming down her cheeks. Grasping her own weakness, this man could eat her to death. Who could tell her where this man's weakness was so that she could also grasp it? If this question was asked to someone else, then the answer would probably be for Jingwan to dig a hole and bury herself. Since it is a beauty prepared by the Pei clan's clan head, presumably she must be an outstanding beauty. In addition, I'm afraid that she is both talented and beautiful. He had seen Yuan's deep affection and righteousness at the water stronghold. If she is not stronger than me in every aspect, how can she push me, this young fei, to one side and occupy the most important position by your side and even in your heart, smoothly blowing pillow talk? Wan is in the right place at the right time. You should take the opportunity to blow pillow talk. As long as it is what you want, I will absolutely not say anything. Jin Qin Wang has the potential to be a fatuous ruler. Jingwan raised her eyebrows. At the same time, Ben Wang also has the potential to be a tyrant. Li Hongyuan answered with a smile that was not a smile. Jingwan's eyebrows jumped. It seemed to be a joke, but Jingwan felt that his words could not be any more true. This kind of temperament that was revealed from time to time was really frightening. There were many rumors about Jin Qin Wang. Although Jingwan did not go to confirm anything, but now she could be sure that some of them were absolutely true, and they were even worse than the rumors. It seemed that in the future, she would have to tighten up a bit. If she could do less harm, then she would try to do less. In fact, Jingwan was very puzzled. How did his temperament form in the end? Arrogant, despotic, and condescending, this kind of situation could be explained. After all, his background was strong and he was favored. But what was this cruelty and darkness? Generally speaking, shouldn't this kind of situation be formed when he received bad treatment? Cheng Di and Gue Fei Su could be considered to have nothing to say about him, except, wait, Gue Fei Su did two things that erased everything good about him. According to him, the first time was when he was 10 years old, and the second time was when he was 13. He had dodged both times. At that time, his temperament was far from mature, but he was smart enough to know the truth. Thus, he became evil? It seemed to make sense. What is Wan thinking about? I want to see what kind of beauty clan head Pei has prepared. Since you want to know, then call her over to take a look. Just treat it as looking at a child. If you don't like looking at her, just throw her into the river and be done with it. Jingwan's eyebrows jumped. Can you not take people's lives at the slightest provocation? It's fine to take a look, but there's no need for anything else. Wang Yi, do you want to take a look as well? However, since Wang Yi knows what kind of person the other party is, you must have already seen her. I haven't seen her, but I can roughly guess. Otherwise, I can look in the mirror, perhaps I can imagine a bit. But is the other party qualified to make Ben Wang waste his energy? Maybe she's somewhat similar to you? What the hell is this? Wait, it's not impossible for two unrelated people in the world to be similar. However, in a situation where they haven't seen each other and said similar words, there can only be one possibility: blood relations. What cousins? Haha, weren't she and Chen Zhengmin the same? Although compared to the biological cousins, they were still a bit far apart. Thinking about it, Ah Yuan's birth mother was known as the #1 beauty in Jiangnan. Ah Yuan also resembles his mother even more. To have such a talented and easy-to-control beauty, who can compare to the Pei family, especially the direct descendants? Moreover, when the women of the aristocratic families are raised, I'm afraid they have already been brainwashed to contribute everything to the family. Jingwan said sarcastically. It's said that the Pei family's legitimate daughter doesn't want to be a concubine. Is he slapping his own mouth after breaking the rule of not being involved with the Li family's royal family? Or is it that the Pei family's clan head actually wants his granddaughter to replace me? Replace you? That old thing might have such thoughts. However, he also has to consider your grandfather's situation. So, he didn't consider that I would be an obstacle? He didn't consider whether you would agree? Wan, I know that kind of person better than you. They never consider how women are. So, this cousin is even more important to meet. Even if you can't understand more, just looking at a beauty is also pleasing to the eye. Cousin? Who told you that she's a cousin? She's a niece, the eldest legitimate granddaughter of the Pei family's clan head, the great-granddaughter of that old thing, and the first child of the 4th generation of their clan head. Li Hongyuan gave Jingwan a look that said she was still a bit naive. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653587. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.